Hello, everyone. Hope you guys are doing well. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Just trying to set the stream up now. Just going to get the lighting up too. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys have had a lovely week so far and a couple days enjoyed, hopefully, with the break in Euros. My lighting is it's just not going to stick. Someone says he's going to go for Bellingham and De Vrij and middle start for Virgil and Walker. Is that just simply because you want differentials, or is there a specific reason why you want to go De Vrij? Because I do think that Van Dijk is obviously a very interesting pick that I would find it pretty hard to drop because I don't think necessarily um, going for De Vrij is going to sort of match what Van Dijk could do really. And I believe someone actually just said that Coleman once again reconfirmed that Virgil van Dijk is the penalty taker. I don't know if that's actually true. I do need to look into that fact because um, I still thought that maybe Memphis would be taking them, but I'm going to quickly look into that. If you guys have a quote, do let me know. Bench, we will show in a moment. It's the same that I've tweeted, to be fair. I've gone for Pedri. I know a lot of people love Ruiz, and that's fine. But, clearly here, as you can see, I do love my Spanish players. So, I would go Van Dijk in most situations. I really don't think it's particularly close between Ake and Van Dijk if things go well, to be quite honest. Just because I think Van Dijk's obviously a better set piece threat anyways, and great at ball recoveries too. You've got both Depay and Virgil van Dijk, that's fine. Any reason behind choosing Pedri over Ruiz? I mean, Pedri is our 10 and Fabian Ruiz is our centre mid. So even if you look at betting odds, they would back the idea that Pedri is going to do better from a goals and assist standpoint. Now, I recognize obviously Fabian has already got 1 goal, 1 assist within match day 1, but that doesn't necessarily mean. I think he's very comparable to someone like Abisher, where you're not consistently expecting for them to be amazing, but because we don't have a budget limitation, I'm not sure Fabian is exactly the player that I would go with. Rank right now. All right, sorry. Let me actually update that. I think it's just have a look. I think it's 107, 165. There we go. Let me just quickly update that on the stream graphic. Give me 1 sec while I just do that. All right, cool. That's done. That's updated. But yeah, sorry. Going back to the point, obviously, there are obviously reasons why I do like Pedri over Fabian Ruiz, and it's just simply positioning. If a game goes to pens, do they add to our total? Nothing really adds to your total, but obviously, during extra time, if someone scores a goal, if someone loses a clean sheet, that does impact you. However, if it goes to a penalty shootout, you don't get points for the penalty shootout. Do you think Toni Kroos is essential in fan team? I don't think he's essential in fan team at all. Why do you think he's essential in fan team? Sorry, or is that just a bit of a joke to me? Because I at one point had him in my fan team. You saw that Olmo could start over Pedri. I don't think that's true at all. I don't think any Spanish newspaper I've seen that's reputable has reported that news, and I don't think Carvajal will be benched either. Those are the sort of rumors that I've seen that are completely unsubstantiated, in my opinion. The Pedri pick over Gundo, yeah, you could argue is bias. I think it might make sense to have a little bit of an even split between maybe obviously the Pedri pick could be Baumgartner, first of all, not necessarily just Gundo. But I'm Spanish. I want to back my team, and I've gone for Spain for that reason as well. Is not taking Kane too much risk? Not at all. I think it's totally fine. A lot of people simply have, let's say, Depay, right? Some people have Ronaldo. I think any of those 5 forwards, in my opinion, are strong. Like, let's say between Depay or even Gakpo, Morata, Kane, Mbappe. These are great players, Ronaldo included. Do you have any idea who will start top? I think Arnautovic will probably start again, but honestly, I have no clue. The minutes are obviously going to be a little bit poor, so I don't really think there's any value to getting an Austrian forward within the team. You can't see my bench. Yeah, you know what? Let me just resize it, and hopefully you guys can see it. See, this is a bit better, but I just need to figure out a way of maybe being able to present it a little bit cleaner. We can try this, and then I'll just resize it for us. I think it's just the aspect ratio is always going to be a problem, isn't it? So, you know what? Let's just show it like this, and I will just sort of focus it a little bit more down the middle. There you go. Hmm. Hopefully that's acceptable. Nice. Ake or Walker. I'd probably still go Walker because I just think that the English fixtures are just better over the next 2 games. The next Dutch game is going to be pretty tough. I think Dumfries should start, but it doesn't necessarily make me want to have Dumfries because, of course, the minutes you can argue are a bit dicey. Why did I take Virgil van Dijk over Ake? I'm not really sure why people love Ake so much. Is it because he's had one return this tournament, or what specifically from Ake has been so appealing? I just want to know. Not even one return. Sorry, I think it's 2 returns, isn't it? But yeah, I think first of all, Virgil van Dijk is just a better ball recovery player. I think there's other points, avenues that Virgil van Dijk has where if we're predicting points in the future, sorry, I think there's more scenarios, as I said, where Virgil van Dijk can come up strong, particularly even as a penalty taker. Yeah, I think, look, as I said, I think people are a little bit sensitive, to be honest, to previous performances. So, for example, with Fabian Ruiz, he's got 1 goal, 1 assist. With Ake, he's got 2 assists. But how that doesn't necessarily mean anything in terms of consistency of those returns being predictable in the future, right? If you look at betting markets, it's not like I see Fabian Ruiz high at all in goal share. It's not like I see Fabian Ruiz high at all in assist share either. He's pretty close to other midfielders. In fact, probably worse than other Spanish players. The reason why I've dropped Lenormand on my draft is, yes, so I could enable Morata. I just think, yeah, ultimately you have a chance to have a center forward versus Georgia. Probably the most one-sided fixture in the tournament left, to be honest, as long as Spain win. So I just wanted to make sure I could maximize the points from that. And also, maybe going for Morata too gives me the best captaincy. I think Pepe is wonderful. Pepe is fantastic. In fact, if I couldn't afford Cancelo, I very well might have switched my Nuno Mendes to Pepe in the end. But yeah, ball recoveries are huge, which is why obviously at the end of the day we've got Guehi and Van Dijk. Now the reason why I've gone for Walker over Stones is because Stones is for whatever reason just terrible at ball recoveries. I presented the domestic data as well. Stones was bad at that. So far in this tournament, he's been one of the worst center backs when it comes to ball recoveries. Stones, that is. So many players you want, but you can't have them all. That's the nature of fantasy football. So it's totally fine. I think, as I said, I like players like Baumgartner. I'm probably gonna miss Ronaldo, um, but you can't have them all. Even Carvajal, for example. Why Cancel in defense? Any replacement of no wild card? I mean, if you don't want to back the Portuguese defense, but for whatever reason you're going to do, I'd probably go Cancelo still, just because of the appeal of the clean sheet in this game, and then obviously how good the points potential is. If you don't really like Cancelo because you don't think he'll last long into the tournament, I think you can definitely go Diogo Costa, and then maybe switch Cancelo with potentially, let's say, if you want, I guess, an Austrian defender. I don't love it, to be honest, but yeah, just to have a bit more of a well-rounded team. You don't know Southgate tactics. Well, I mean, if there's anything that we can say is consistent about Southgate is that he's made sure that England is a very robust team from the back. So if there's any comfort I have from England, it's probably just the defense. And even though Kane obviously was substituted off early once, I think his minutes will still remain quite good in this tournament. Some people ask about, once again, Pedri and Fabian. As I said, Pedri's a 10, Fabian's a center mid. Maybe Fabian can get man of the match potential, but I'd like, obviously, to get a more advanced player versus Georgia. And that's pretty much it. The points total, I'm not sure, but my rank's 107, 165. Points total is 184, just to answer your question. Gakpo over Kane, that's fine as well. Once again, if you don't, let's say, have a wild card, you want a bit more of a well-rounded draw. But at the same time, I just think that England has such a good chance of getting towards the semi-finals. I'm not sure if Kane would be necessarily the player that I replace. I think it makes more sense. I think it probably makes more sense to drop Portuguese players potentially if you don't have a wild card, because look, end of the day, they have two back-to-back tough games. Not sorry, well, not back-to-back. Obviously, this game on paper is easier, but obviously the next game is projected to be harder, and you might even value, let's say, France over Portugal. Yeah, Euro's been tough. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like, look, I think at the end of the day, we're at the beginning of the tournament. When we play fantasy football, I'd wish I had more chances to just do well, if that makes sense, right? Because if you make good decisions, you expect the more rolls of a dice for good decisions to pan out better. But obviously, we've only had 3 rolls of the dice so far per se, so it's like I'd like more chances, and hopefully by the end of the tournament, we can get a final good rank that we're happy with, just like in the World Cup where we finished top 1,000. Too many Englishmen there. But I mean, what exactly is the lack of appeal with the English? The English team is most likely to go towards the semifinal more than any other team, so I just don't really think it's an issue. Bruno Fernandes, Gov FPL, is that good for you? Yamal over Morata? I'd still probably pick Morata, although I think Yamal could very well get man of the match over him. It's just the case that center forward versus Georgia, I like those chances. Do you have expected goals for and against? I think you can look at 11ify. You can also look at Rob T FPL. We can actually quickly show Rob T's graphics as well. I think Rob T has already shared his work. So he's these are his goal predictions, but this is his sort of team predictions, and this is way too resized, but hopefully we can see it. Nah, it's still not. I'll just resize it for you guys. Here it is. And then if I was to resize it a little bit, as you can see with this graphic, these are the sort of team goals and against, right? So you can see Spain on the latest market, obviously the most dominant fixture here, best clean sheet odds as well. But to be honest, good clean sheet odds for England, for the Dutch as well, and the Portuguese. It's clear here, I think what's interesting, right, is the Austrian versus Turkey game seems to be very close as per the markets. But I still think there's a lot of appeal to Sabitzer and Baumgartner. So even though Austria might have a little bit of a lower team goal tally, you just have to think that, you know, their midfielders, these sort of dual 10s that I say, you know, Sabitzer sort of playing on the wing and then moving towards the 10 position, Baumgartner a bit more of a classic 10, really, positionally speaking. They're still very interesting for me. Now, Portugal, look, amazing game as well, but you have to expect that the goals will be once again split. And look, that goes for Spain, that goes for Germany, that goes for other teams as well. With France, I think you can argue that maybe Mbappe is a little bit more talismanic, that the goal share and the assist share is probably going to be a little bit less split. But that's all I'd say so far. Obviously, Spain, the fixture to target, but it also depends on, once again, how many players you have on each side of the bracket and things like that. So this is market level data from Rob T. These aren't his predictions. This is what he's sort of inferred from the market, which I think is useful as a little bit of a sense check for you guys. Now, I'm just going to quickly fix this and just resize my little team. Oops. Let's get that fixed again. Alrighty, so did I use wildcard? Nope, I still have my wildcard left. Any more changes before the deadline? If you weren't Spanish, would you go Gundo over Pedri? I think I'd actually go Baumgartner over Pedri. I think I'd go Baumgartner. Wirtz or Gundo or Sabitzer? I'd probably go Gundo. Actually, I'd probably go Sabitzer, sorry. Which is better, Spanish double defense? I would still say English defense, right? Because if Spain advances, you're going to have double Spain defense versus Germany most likely. Whereas obviously if you have England, in theory, the next 2 fixtures are not too bad, in my opinion, from the clean sheet perspective. What players do you think you're missing out on? Baumgartner, I think I'm missing out on. Yamal, maybe. Ronaldo for sure. Okay, let's be serious. Ronaldo, because I'm not limited by quadruple Spain, so I'm not going to mention Yamal. So Ronaldo for sure. Baumgartner, maybe Gundo as well. Those are the 3 players that I would love to have in my draft, but I don't have. Potentially Carvajal. But I think that's it. I think I really do like my draft. I don't have any issues with it right now. I use Limitless in match day 3, but I have wildcard left. Too risky going without Mbappe. I don't think it's risky going off of Mbappe. I think it's totally fine to go Mbappe. Opinion on Posh over Virgil van Dijk. You can definitely go Posh if you want, but I think, look, the clean sheet odds for the Dutch are much better. His avenues towards points are very interesting. I don't think there are Baumgartner injury rumors, but I think apparently he was rested because of the yellow card potentially is what I've heard. Once again, Arthur, I've answered your question multiple times, so you can either listen or you can just get in timeout because I've already explained that I haven't used any chips. You can't use any chips this round. Virgil Ake, I still think Virgil. No Mbappe needed. Yeah, I don't think it's necessary. You can definitely go. I think Ronaldo is interchangeable to Mbappe. Another thing too is you're sort of guessing, what exactly is the best player to go for between, let's say, Mbappe and Ronaldo. If you think that Portugal are more than likely to do better versus France, which is very probable. Right? First of all, Portugal actually have a better fixture than France this time round, and then Portugal. It depends on how you value them versus France. If you prefer France, then it's totally fine to just go for Mbappe and sort of ignore the fact that Portugal have a much better fixture this round. But if you think Portugal are overall the stronger team, there's no reason really to pick Mbappe at all. My sentiments are that I'm a little bit more pro-France. Austrian writing here, Baumgartner was rested because... Okay, Chris. It's over a 2-week period. Mbappe is the best one. I kind of see what you mean. Mbappe plays better against the high line. We always tend to dismiss high line narratives on this channel. I mean, what team in this tournament is really using a high line except for potentially Spain, I would say, if we're super advanced. Is this my final draft? Yeah, it is. I did get rid of Cristiano. That is my team going forward to match day 4. Potential attacking returns and ball recoveries. What do we talk about? Virgil van Dijk. Yeah, I think Virgil van Dijk has better attacking returns than Ake in general in terms of predicted attacking returns. And then obviously better on ball recoveries as well. So I don't actually think there's... if I was to predict the future and you asked me to be a betting man and you asked me to bet whether Virgil van Dijk or Ake was more likely to get a goal or assist, I can tell you right now Virgil van Dijk is more likely to do so. And the betting odds would reflect the same. What do you think about Marin from Romania? I mean, look, the Dutch defense has looked pretty poor so far, although they did keep a clean sheet versus France. I think my only concern with Romania is it that likely for them to score, particularly given the context of how they scored in the previous match. And I do think the Ukraine game was a little bit of an aberration. So, I mean, personally, I'm not that keen on Marin, particularly also just given that you have the flexibility to choose a lot of spots in your team and pick more dominant teams. So why pick a team that's already expected to do poorly unless you really have faith that he would haul more so than other picks? Yeah, Chris, I agree. I agree with you in all your sentiments. And as I said, I do love Baumgartner. Anish, why Morata over Yamal? Center forwards, more goal scoring opportunities. If Yamal was maybe a midfielder, I'd probably consider him a bit more. Because if Yamal was a midfielder, then the question would be, okay, more points for goals as a midfielder, more points for clean sheets. But because Yamal's a forward, unfortunately, he gets points the same way that Morata does. And I'd much rather have a forward that has better goal share. How would you change the team if you had no chips? I'd probably get Baumgartner in the team to make sure that we have some more players from other sides of the draft. I might go Maignan potentially just because I might back France over Portugal. I want to have a little bit of an even split between them. You might want to drop one Spanish player potentially. As I said, that could be Baumgartner in this case here for Pedri. If you want to, let's say, I think for England is non-negotiable, to be honest, still. So I don't really have an issue with that. Probably limit yourself to double Portugal. Could go double France to hedge against that. Could go double Germany if you really want to, but I think maybe just 3 Spain, 1 Germany makes sense. And therefore, of course, if you go for Virgil, if you go for, let's say, double Austrian mid, I think you're well covered in multiple different bases. You might also want to consider, of course, dropping one of the forwards within sort of, let's say, that Mbappe Ronaldo position to Depay, of course, because the Dutch do have a pretty good chance of going forwards into the semifinals, so that makes a big difference. Isn't it better to double up on Dutch defense rather than Portugal, as the CS odds is similar, but the next fixture is much easier for the Netherlands? I disagree with that. The Netherlands just conceded 3 goals the last time round when they played versus Austria, so why exactly are the CS odds going to be so much better for the Netherlands, if that makes sense? And if anything, France has been pretty blunt on the attacking point of view. So it's sort of, for me, they're equivalently, well, I wouldn't say they're equivalently poor fixtures, but I would say they're both pretty poor fixtures. At the same time, too, I think I'd also try and maximize on the fact that, unfortunately, I mean, actually, well, rather, for example, Cancelo is very appealing on the offensive side of the game, and actually is pretty good for ball recoveries considering all fullbacks. Well, I know Germany defense, it's not that good a fixture defensively from a clean sheet perspective for Germany. And we've also heard news that I think David Rom could be a contender as well, so maybe less Mittelstadt minutes, maybe even a Mittelstadt benching. We'll find out, of course, in around 30 minutes. Or actually, is the first game Germany? It is, right? No, it's not. It's Italy, Switzerland. Sorry, what am I talking about? So that's another issue too. What I can do, however, is I can have a quick look at predicted lineups today for some of these teams. Give me one sec whilst I go on the hunt for that information. I'll continue to read chat in the meantime. Cucurella or Carvajal, money's not a problem. I mean, Carvajal is probably more interesting for goals and assists. Cucurella probably a bit better for ball recoveries. Can you explain the appeal of Austrian mids? Sure, they might be decent, but you'd expect them to lose sooner or later. But I don't really understand what you're saying. If you look at the Austrian side of the bracket, their next matchup is the Dutch, who they've already beaten at one point in the tournament, quite convincingly, I'd say as well, given that there was an own goal, to be fair. But they've shown that the Austrian mids at least have shown that they've been quite strong, right, within this tournament from the attacking point of view. So I don't necessarily see why it would matter if you expect them to get knocked out by the Dutch. That's fine. But everyone has on paper a pretty tough quarterfinal matchup, maybe with exception to the British, where I think based on the odds that I'm seeing, they're expected to do the best in the quarterfinal, because obviously Spain versus Germany, extremely tough to call. France versus Portugal, prospectively tough to call. Austria versus the Dutch, well, you can actually argue that it's a very even game once again. So it's not necessarily the case, I think, at all why you'd want to drop the Austrian mids. I think they're actually very strong. Is that your match day rank? No, that's just my total rank. I think Rom and Shaw could be surprises in the starting 11. Shaw, I don't think there's any chance that Shaw makes it into the English starting 11. There's already a lot of news about Konsa, which already indicates, that Shaw simply isn't ready to play. I'm going to quickly read into the news about predicted lineups for Germany. Just give me 1 second whilst I try my best to cook up a little bit of a predicted lineup if we can. The Danish lineup, I think, is pretty simple, so let's not really bother with that. Unfortunately, I can't see a predicted lineup from Germany. Let me try my best. Nope. Still can't really see any predicted lineups for Germany, although, of course, the rumors in the press is that we'll see Füllkrug, and there's been small murmurs about Rome, but that hasn't really been confirmed either, and that's strange. I haven't really seen a consistent Germany predicted lineup being put about, so unfortunately, we seemingly do not have this information right now. I'm just gonna quickly have another glance. Nope, doesn't really seem like it, unfortunately. Is Frimpong too risky? I mean, once again, look, you don't know whether he's going to start. His minutes could be a little bit susceptible. English, not British. Did I say something wrong? Bastoni, I think he's interesting, but once again, I'm not really that confident in the Italian team. So is it really all about ball recoveries for you? It's not like the clean sheet odds for Italy are amazing. What happens with clean sheets of extra time? You can still lose your clean sheets in extra time. Hey, Fran, I don't know if you remember me. We used to text on Twitter a decent bit. You're currently 31K global ranking. Awesome. Is your username High Rock as well on Twitter? I mean, if you drop me a message, I probably could recognize you on Twitter. What made you switch to Morata? Really good goal scoring, honestly, bonus. And once again, I think just coming back to the point that this might be the most one-sided game in the tournament so far, or that we might have left, to be honest. And I think maximizing on the Spanish attack made sense to me from that perspective. Also, given that, let's say, I expect to concede versus the Dutch next round, or rather versus the Germans next round if we progress, and if the Germans equally progress, I'd probably still want to have Spanish attackers as opposed to, let's say, Spanish defenders. And that's sort of how I decided that. Gundo or Baumgartner, I'd probably go Baumgartner. Is the draft you recommend for a player who has all the chips available? So I've made a video on that. That's probably the draft that I would go with. It has a little bit more Dutch. It has a little bit more Austria. But ultimately, look, if you wanted to make this draft a little bit more, well-rounded in terms of having players from both sides of the bracket, I might consider, obviously, instead of triple up on Portugal, I'd probably go double up on Portugal, maybe go Mbappe Magnan. I'd probably consider going Depay over maybe Mbappe if you want to. And I think you can go Baumgartner over a Spanish midfielder, something like that. Are you comfortable triple English defense, or is it safer to have English defense and double Spain defense? Double. I still think it's safer to go double English defense, as I said, or triple English defense, because ultimately, as I said, Spain's next fixture is most likely going to be Germany. England's next fixture is obviously the winner of Italy versus Switzerland, which is actually a pretty nice matchup when it comes to clean. It's probably going to be the best clean sheet odds in the next group stage, right? England versus whoever wins from that fixture. Why Baumgartner over Gundo? I just think look, Turkey have been a really poor defensive team in this tournament. They have 2 key suspensions, and I've been pretty impressed by Austria so far. So given that Germany are versus a pretty tough Denmark team, I don't really mind the idea of going for Baumgartner. Is saving the wild card for the semis a waste considering the amount of free transfers we will have? I mean, you don't actually have that many free transfers. You're really going to have 7 between now and the semifinals. If you have a wild card, I still think you can solely target the round of 16 fixture, because by targeting the round of 16 fixture, you're ultimately getting players who will play in the quarterfinals no matter what, which means that you don't really need to spend your transfers sort of fixing your team. But, if there's an upset, there's an upset, and you might have to sort of adjust. As far as total points, 184, Gakpo, Depay, I'd probably still go Depay. Cucurella versus Carvajal, I'd probably go Cucurella for the ball recoveries, but if you want an attacking return, Carvajal is still better for that. What site account do I get player expected goals or assists before a game from? I use a multitude of sources. My friend 11fi has his own model. I look at market odds from betting websites, but I'm not going to look at any betting websites here. I think RobTFPL at RobTFPL on Twitter shares a lot of the market data without you having to actually go on the websites yourself. So he's someone who's actually very helpful and can give you the sort of deep dive of information if you want the market level information. At the same time, obviously, I watch all the games. I look tactically at a lot of the games too. So sometimes I think if I think I'd like to bet against something, predicted by the market or predicted by certain team models, I'm happy to do so. When is the best time to use Limitless? Look, I think you probably want to be using Limitless. If you save Limitless, you probably want a wildcard too. So I'd probably Limitless Matchday 5, wildcard Matchday 6. It's funny people doubt Pedri. Have they watched Spain play? I would agree the same thing too. I think anyone who's actually asking me about Ruiz over Pedri might not have watched Spain play, if I'm being honest, or might have just seen Pedri's results. Mate, can you answer 2 questions? You've got Guehi, Walker, Cucurella, Carvajal, Cancelo. Who should I get instead of double Spain? Gundo, Musiala, captain. I'd still go Musiala, captain. I think it's very close though. It doesn't really matter which way you go. Xavi Simons, I actually do like him a lot. If you don't really want to go double Austrian mid, I think you can definitely consider going Xavi Simons as well. You're scared about having too many players on the first, second. Is this an issue? What do you mean by the first, second? You mean the first and second days? I don't think it's an issue as long as you have a third and fourth day player. I probably missed a question in terms of answering, right? Look, Pedri over Ruiz, I've pretty much answered it. Pedri's a 10, Fabian Ruiz is a center mid. Obviously, he's got a man of the match before, so he can definitely get it again, with another great sort of offensive performance. But our expectations, generally speaking, are probably going to be leaning towards Pedri over someone like Fabian Ruiz. At the end of the day, you'd much rather an attacking player than not. Do you like Bastoni as a pick? I don't really like it because I just think that the Italian fixture is pretty tough. Ruiz better, more shots. I mean, Ruiz definitely takes a few shots, but I don't think Pedri is lacking in terms of shots. What about Pedri over Williams? I'd go Williams still, to be fair. You think 2 Portuguese players are enough? I think that's fine as well. You can go 2 Portuguese players. Lobotka thoughts. How does extra time work? So it's the same as usual. You can lose your clean sheet in extra time. You can score goals in extra time. You don't get any additional appearance points, but nothing in the penalty shootouts has any contribution to fantasy points. So penalty shootouts do not matter whatsoever. What's your point limit for changing captain? 2 months. This time we have 4 captaincies to swap around. There aren't necessarily great fixtures. So I think my point limit will change day by day. For example, on the first day, I think maybe my point limit will be probably 9 points. If I get a 9-point captaincy, I think I'm locked in. On the next day, because Spain actually has such a good fixture, so does England. Between who I pick for my captaincy there, I think 8 points I'm happy with, and I'll probably maybe even 7 points I'll be happy with. By that last third day, I think I'll be happy with 6, to be honest. And I probably won't swap. Why Pedri over Williams? I've got Pedri and Williams. Pedri or Baumgartner? I'd probably actually go Baumgartner, but I'm a little bit biased, which is why I've actually gone for Pedri. So ultimately, you can do what you want. As I said, I'm a little bit biased because I own Spanish players. But even within Spain, if I was ever to choose between Pedri and Fabian Ruiz, I would choose Pedri. Pedri is a 4 Spanish player, Musiala as a 3rd German player. And why Walker over Mittelstadt? I mean, Walker just simply has better clean sheet odds. He's got 2 back-to-back better fixtures than Germany anyways, as it stands. And Mittelstadt could even lose his place within the team. Why are Austrian mids being hyped so much? Because they're versus Turkey, second of all, and honestly, Austria have performed really well within this tournament so far. Do you think Gundogan's points potential is close enough to Musiala's to justify as a differential? Yeah, look, if you want to go Gundo over Musiala, that's totally fine. In my opinion, they're close to 50-50s. Pedri or Sabi Simons, I'd still go Pedri personally, because I do think the Dutch are inferior, unfortunately, to Spain, and Spain ultimately are versus Georgia. Sorry, if you have to choose one, why Pedri over Williams? No, I would go Williams over Pedri. So the reason why I'd go Williams is simply, I think aesthetically, if we're being honest, there is a man of the match appeal to Williams, who when you look at the Italian game, look at how people have voted. So I tend to think there's a little bit of, preconceived bias towards players who've already done well within the tournament so far. So the fact that Nico Williams has already a good game on his belt, very much like Fabian, of course, you can expect future man of the matches. We've seen that, for example, with double man of the matches already, Eriksson, Lobotka, and even Granit Xhaka. Now, with Williams, I think when you look as well, just domestically, very, very assistive, creative player. I'm sure he can have a good time versus the Jordan defense. I'm sure Pedri can as well as the 10 of Spain. But I think there's a bit more guarantees with Williams. I also think we have stronger replacements for Pedri when it comes to 70, 75 minutes plus. And who knows? I think Williams can even stay on. Fran, you're the best content. Thank you, Stu. I really appreciate that. Gundogan or Pedri? As I said, I'm a little bit biased towards Spain. I do think that maybe, you can make the argument that I'm overstacked on Spain. And as I said, if you want to go for players like Simons, like Gundo, like maybe Baumgartner, totally fine. These are all amazing picks. And honestly, the market odds for all these players are all fantastic. So there's not really necessarily a player that's, better or worse. Is Bruno overhyped? I'm not sure if I don't think he's overhyped at all, personally. At the end of the day, you have Bruno at a pretty good price point. You have a flexible budget. Do I prefer Bruno over Ronaldo? Yes. Out of all the midfielders that I've seen in this tournament within this specific fantasy game, Bruno has the best goal scoring odds, I believe. Maybe it's actually, well, technically in some other fantasy games, Yamal is a midfielder, so technically no. But yeah, for this game specifically, Bruno is sort of the dominant option that I've seen so far as a mix of goal and sort of assist odds. I think the only midfielder that I saw came close was players like Baumgartner, who actually had better goal scoring odds than Bruno that I've seen. But that's it. So just a little bit of insight for you guys. Morata's on penalties. I don't think that's necessarily the case. If you look at, for example, Brazil versus Germany, the friendly fixture that ended 3-3, Morata was on the pitch when Rodri took the first penalty. So I do not think Morata is necessarily on penalties. Viva España. Thank you, Emil. Best of luck to you today versus Switzerland. I'm hoping you do well. Have you gone for any Italian players, Emil? Hope you're doing well. Cancelo or Nuno Mendes? I'd probably still go Cancelo at the end of the day. We've seen Nuno Mendes sort of operate multiple different roles within Portugal. Cancelo more than likely, I think, to be in more advanced roles, which I think is nice. Also, the ball recovery data seems to favor Cancelo. And I think that even goes back to even the UEFA data, so he's pretty good. Posh is the one. I think everyone would own him if he scored against Poland. Andy Martin, appreciate that. Hey, I had Posh for a long time in Serie A fantasy, and that guy did absolutely nothing, and I thought that he was the one as well. So I hope that maybe he can do something. At the end of the day, though, with Austria, I think the big flip side, of course, is that the clean sheet odds for Austria probably aren't amazing. Because if there's anything that Turkey might be half decent at, it's probably scoring a goal. But yeah, I think, look, Austria, when I look at the market odds, I do think that I'm surprised how closely Austria are to Turkey. I would actually expect that Austria would be a little bit more favored given all their performances so far. And if anything, Turkey for me has looked horrible. So yeah, as I said, the one player that I probably have major FOMO of missing out in my draft is probably Baumgartner, but I have Baumgartner in other fantasy games, so I don't really care. Why Pedri, not Fabian Ruiz? You have one player who's a 10 for Spain and one player who's a center mid. And that's sort of my answer. Mainu is my punt. Fair enough. I mean, he could get man of the match, I suppose. But look, I think he improved England a lot when he came on in that second half versus Slovenia. But am I expecting for Mainu to really correlate to fantasy points? Not necessarily. Would it be stupid to aim for semis wildcards by cutting down on players from the tough side of the draw? Yeah, but there's a flip side to that, right? So if you miss, for example, let's say you reduce the amount of Spanish players you have versus Georgia, which, as I said, is most likely the most one-sided game in the tournament left. If you do that, you're sort of losing points potential this week, and there's a flip side. So I think it works both ways. Clearly, you probably want to make sure that you're hedged towards both sides of the bracket because teams will advance from all quadrants, and the quarterfinals are very tough. And of course, noticeably, if you own four Spain players next game versus Germany, it's not exactly going to go well on expectation. But yeah, as I said, I think there's a flip side to when some of these teams have such good one-sided fixtures like Portugal or Spain do, to probably own some of them. And England, for example, is just a bit of a godsend because you've got four players here ultimately within the English team that you can continue to stack on and will probably expect them to do well consistently, particularly on the defensive end at least. England actually are bottom three, I believe, on expected goals this tournament, but that was sort of the nature of that group. Andy, appreciate that. Thank you. Try to be unbiased in this channel. Love the content that you have on Twitter. Hope you're doing well, and let me know if you need sort of any information when it comes to Spain. It was really nice to see that you actually maybe gave a bit of a read to my content and or it helped you make a decision or two. So thank you. But if you want Baumgartner, why not trade him for Sabitzer? I still think Sabitzer for this fantasy game is a little bit more interesting, right? Because I still think the minutes are a touch better. You might get access to penalties with Sabitzer for let's say when Arnautovic is off the pitch. So for me, I still think I would class Baumgartner below Sabitzer, even though Baumgartner has higher goal scoring odds, because it's more about the case that Sabitzer is also going to have higher expected assists. Sabitzer also takes some of the set pieces, right? If you watch Austria play, Wimmer was taking corners previously. But the main difference is Sabitzer will take corners because Wimmer's suspended. So these kind of things will have sort of differences and have implications on different routes to get points. It's not just purely about picking the highest players when it comes to goal scoring potential. You don't understand if you're supposed to use the chip this match day. You can't use the chip this match day. There's no chips that are available for this match day. Baumgartner's has penalties for Austria. Hey, Chai, I hope you're doing well. Always lurking. Appreciate you. Is that the case? So the last penalty that Baumgartner took was 23-24. Let's have a look at Sabitzer. I think Sabitzer's definitely taken more penalties for Austria as of late. So Sabitzer took 22-23, 22-23, and I think the international friendly, that was the 6-1 versus Turkey. I don't think Sabitzer played in that match. So let me quickly have a look. Yeah, exactly. So when Baumgartner took the penalty versus Turkey in that international friendly, Sabitzer actually wasn't in the team. Now, neither was Arnautovic. So I think what we can probably infer from that is that I don't think Gregoric will take penalties in any instance. I think it's between probably Arnautovic first, because we've already seen it, then Sabitzer, then Baumgartner is my opinion, because at least that's how I see the penalty hierarchy. Because if you look at Sabitzer's Austrian sort of history, he's unfortunately missed a lot of the friendly games as well. Why Van Dijk or Ake? I think Van Dijk's just clear, better ball recoveries, and ultimately, potential penalty points. I've seen him on set pieces as well when Depay's off the pitch. So ultimately, I think he's also a better aerial threat than Ake. And as I said, I don't really look to previous returns for, indication of future returns, particularly with small sample size. Yamal or Depay, I'd probably still go Yamal. If you had to choose one of Williams and Pedri, I would probably go Williams. Mbappe for Gakpo or Kane for Gakpo? I'd probably drop Mbappe if you really want to go for Gakpo. Ultimately, Kane has an easier side of the bracket. He should, in theory, last longer the tournament. Mbappe will have 2 back-to-back tougher games. Arnautovic or Griezmann, I'd probably go neither, honestly. I just don't really like either. I think Griezmann has a tough game, not a penalty taker, probably less goal share, and a very tough match. Arnautovic also less minutes. I'd much rather also go for the Austrian midfielders. Italy is out tonight. As in, you think they'll lose to let's say, Switzerland? You're 9 points behind the leader in your mini league. Mustafa says, what players can I bring into my team that score good points that may not be in everyone's draft? I think Baumgartner is one of them. Looking at my own team, I think Pedri seems to be quite low owned. Bruno's pretty high owned. Maybe Williams is quite popular. I guess you can swerve Musiala. You can definitely still go Gundo. He's probably going to be lower owned. You could probably drop Mbappe. You could go Ronaldo. He's going to be lower owned. You could obviously go a Dutch forward over Kane. Morata, I think, is very sensible given the low ownership. Going English defense, I think, is still a differential. As you can see, the ownerships of Pickford, Walker, Guehi are all very low. So I would go for them. Sabitzer's pretty decently low owned. Cancelo's pretty highly owned, so I think you can definitely go Pepe. I'd still personally go Van Dijk over Ake, so that's my personal opinion. You can say I'm biased, but that's just how I feel. So yeah, I think Baumgartner is probably the one. Simons is actually a pretty good pick as well, to be fair, if you want a differential. But as I said, I'm a little bit more confident in Austria overall than the Dutch, and I might be wrong because obviously a lot of the predictions and simulations seem to have the Dutch landing quite safely into the semifinals. I don't think Gundogan is a no-go at all. I think Gundogan's a perfectly good pick. De Bruyne punt could be interesting. Yeah, but the way I see it, right, it's like Belgium are basically going to be the underdog 2 fixtures in a row. So I'm not really sure if I love the De Bruyne punt, but I kind of see what you're saying because obviously if he pulls off the upset, more than likely going to be man of the match again. Rodri, I think, is also a fantastic punt too, to be fair. Any insights on German strikers? Yeah, but I think Füllkrug is expected to start, but based on the bookies odds that I've seen, the expectations for the German center forward to do well is pretty poor compared to all the other center forwards that we have in the game. Dani Olmo, I don't think he's going to start. If you have Pickford, does that mean you would pick Ford as your car of choice? Look, first of all, Imrano, thank you for the super chat. I don't own a car, don't drive a car. Unfortunately, I'm stuck in London. But I did enjoy Ford versus Ferrari, the film. That might have been the only time I really cared for Ford, just a little bit. But to answer your question, no, I don't think Ford would be my car of choice. Rodri is suspended. Rodri is not suspended. Rodri was suspended in the previous match, and now Rodri is available. With Dad Jokes FC, Henry Ford was a weird guy. Why Morata over another Spain defense? Just amazing goal scoring odds versus Georgia, and once again, one-sided fixture, hoping to target the Spanish attack instead. What are my captaincy plans? Musiala, haven't really decided day 2. Day 3 is Bruno, and day 4 is probably Sabitzer or Van Dijk. Maybe Van Dijk. What do you think about Bellingham? I still like him, but to be fair, I think I prefer Kane for the permanency of minutes, and I also thought that there were more midfielders that I liked over Bellingham than more forwards than I liked over Kane. No wildcard draft. As I said, you can just add a couple more Dutch players where you see fit. So I think definitely Simons or Baumgartner in replacement of one of the Spanish midfielders. Maybe drop Mbappe as well for let's say someone like Depay. You just got 2 Germans for tonight, Musiala or Captain Rudiger. I think that's fine. That seems to be pretty sensible. Am I worried about Morata's minutes? Look, I think all the Spanish players are going to start. As in all the players that I think are contentious will start. I prefer Walker over Carvajal personally, but going back to it, I think, look, Morata, Williams, and Pedri can all be subbed off at 75 minutes, but that's not necessarily a bad thing versus Georgia. It is that one-sided of game where I think there's a value play just simply to having Spanish players that will start the game and actually hopefully see the game into a good position, by that 75th minute. Middlestat not starting, I don't think that's been confirmed necessarily. Why going for Nico and not Fabian Ruiz? He has more goals, involvements. As I said, Fabian Ruiz, why are we looking at 3? First of all, why are you looking at 2 game sample size to judge Fabian Ruiz? He's a center mid for Spain. I don't expect him to do better than Nico Williams or Pedri. The market odds suggest the same. Fabian Ruiz has very low goal scoring odds as per market. Even Rodri has higher just because of the implied penalty share. And that's pretty much it. Once again, I would never ever use 1 or 2 games of sample size to choose my team. England will let you down, dude. Guehi and Walker self-goal loading. Look, fine with me. I'd rather bet against teams that actually have good chances of getting clean sheets and are extremely defensive like England than a team that isn't. So I'm happy to have Guehi or Walker score an own goal if they want. What do you think about Leon Roman? I think he's totally fine. Keep in mind, though, of course, he has a yellow card suspension threat, although I think it's very unlikely that he'll get a yellow card in this situation. Did Ron play? Apparently Ron was in training, but obviously we don't know full news about Mittelstadt. Am I not scared about Pedro's minutes? I assume you mean Pedri. I think I am. I'm not scared about any of the minutes of the Spanish players. I think they're not going to be 90 minutes, but I think they're all going to play at least 70 plus within this match. keep in mind, of course, Pedri and Williams were actually fully rested within the previous match. So, I don't necessarily see Pedri and Williams coming off at 60 minutes. But ball recoveries are better than clean sheets. What are you talking about? Guehi literally has the highest ball recoveries in this entire tournament. Thoughts on Bastoni? Bastoni is a wonderful pick. Bastoni is also a huge set piece threat for Italy. But once again, as I said, I'm not expecting Italy to necessarily do well this fixture or the next fixture. So I think with the combination of that in mind, it's not like I'm that interested in going for Bastoni. Guehi or Stones, Guehi on 1 yellow, I'd go Guehi still. I mean, he's going to be aware of the yellow. I'd still take my punt. Stones literally does 0 ball recoveries. Stones is so bad at ball recoveries, unfortunately. He's worse than Walker so far. Hey, High Rock. Musiala or Gundo captain? I'm going Musiala personally, but I don't think you can go really wrong with either. They both have pretty similar goal and assist odds. You think Sabitzer is better fantasy option than Baumgartner? I think for the purposes of this game, yes, because obviously Sabitzer is also going to have probably better assist potential, maybe a little bit better man of the match potential. I also think that he's ahead of him in penalty order, but that's, ultimately comes down to what you think. The penalty taker for Spain should be Rodri. And I think the best example of the penalty taker for Spain is if you look at the Spain versus Brazil match, the friendly that ended 3-3, Rodri was on the pitch at 12 minutes when he took the penalty. Now, I suppose the one argument you can make is that Rodri's grandmother, I think, passed away, or grandfather passed away around that time. So if you want to make the craziest narrative and say that that's the only reason why Rodri was on penalties, you can say that. But I think that Morata has missed penalties for Spain previously. I do think that Rodri is probably going to be our penalty taker. Reason for no Ronaldo, I just wanted a little bit of a balance between France and Portugal within my team. So therefore, I've sort of preferred Mbappe. And I think with Kane and Morata, I think Morata has similar sort of goal share, better opportunities anyways versus Georgia, and slightly biased because I'm Spanish. And then Kane, I think just a cleaner, easier route towards the semifinals, so not too worried. Should we be worried about Pedri's minutes? I don't think you should be worried about Pedri's minutes any more so than any of the other forwards. For example, Morata and Williams will have tougher minutes and probably slightly less minutes, and that's fine. What do you mean by check on Twitter? Why not Ake? Once again, I just think Virgil van Dijk has better routes towards points, and I'm more confident that Virgil van Dijk will consistently get goals and assists. Is Middlesat a good option? I mean, there's already a little bit of concerns about him potentially getting dropped for Rome, so I probably wouldn't jump on that, considering it's also Denmark. Thank you so much, Fran. You felt like you wanted Morata in your team. You didn't know which Spanish player to leave out. It just gives a sense of security going for players that I appreciate that, Swish. His wife is having a baby. Who are we talking about? Sorry, are we talking about Foden? Who would you think would be the best coach for England after Southgate? I don't know. I'm not in the business of choosing English coaches, so... Pedro, Nico Williams. I'd probably pick Nico Williams. Fulkrug is going to score 5 goals. Mate, if you think Fulkrug's going to score 5 goals, put a bet on that because you're going to win a lot of money. Have 4 Portuguese. Should I go Posh over Cancel? I think it does make sense to probably hedge around some of the other teams that will probably not face France in the next match. So yeah, I do think maybe 4 Portuguese is a touch overkill. What's your stick/twist number, Musiala? Probably around 9 or 8, if I'm honest. The best fixtures are probably going to fall on the second day. So I think that's probably the one thing that would keep my sort of threshold a little bit higher than usual. If you could captain only 2 players and they would both count, who would you pick? I might pick Bruno Fernandes for this match day, and probably a Spanish player, although I haven't really decided which one it would be. Potentially just Morata for the vibes. Is there anyone better than Cucurella? You're a hater low key. You can go Lenormand if you want, just at the same price point. Will you do a watch along? I probably will. Ruiz or Sabitzer? I don't think it's particularly close. I'd go Sabitzer for sure. Best differential England player after having triple defense. I mean, to quickly check Harry Kane's ownership. I mean, at this rate, for security of minutes, I'd probably just go Bellingham, but he's not going to be low owned, so I guess it would be Saka. What would be a good score match day for? I don't know. Let's find out. Would you take out Kane for Gakpo? I probably wouldn't. You're saying you wouldn't pick Mbappe. What do you mean? I've got Mbappe. Or you mean if I didn't have a wild card? Is that what you're saying? Pepe for ball recoveries over Cancelo? I think that's totally fine. If you want to go Pepe over Cancelo, I think that's more than justifiable. Because, yeah, he's definitely going to get more ball recoveries than Cancelo. Would you rather cap Sabitzer or Virgil? I'd probably go Virgil. You're pretty sure the ownership percentages are from Matchday 3. That's a good point, actually. Yeah, I guess Kane could drop, but then I'm also thinking how much would Kane drop? I guess you could go Bellingham if you still want to, and he probably would be a differential. We know extra time is possible, right? Going for X-Mins. Certainly we do know that extra time is possible. I mean, who are you referring to in this instance? Are you just talking about just generally the sort of Spanish players? I know you have a bias towards Spain, but debating between Pedri versus Gundo, I'd probably go Gundo if you're really unsure about it. As I said, I think it's obviously not sensible per se to have 5 players from one quarterfinal draw, but I'm pretty high on Spain, and as I said, I think there's a little bit of upside to capturing the good fixture here versus Georgia. How about some differentials in forwards? It's probably the Dutch forwards. Yamal, I would say, is a good differential for sure. Rodri, Ronaldo for X-Men's. Look, if we are going to go extra time versus Georgia, we might as well not even go Rodri. Ronaldo, I'm not even sure if his X-Men's will be that. I mean, I think there might be some game states where you could see Ronaldo come off a little bit earlier, but maybe I'm wrong. Obviously, I think he kind of has a lot of rent in Roberto Martinez's brain. So, I think maybe I'm also just not that high on Portugal. I know obviously their favorite potentially is the best team in the tournament by quite a few models, but I generally think that France will probably beat Portugal. That's just a little bit of an intuitive guess from me, and I prefer Mbappe on that basis, and I think Morata, just because I prefer going for Spanish players, I'd rather go with Morata as well. But if you wanted to go Ronaldo, I don't think that's an issue. Yeah. Who'd you still go for Spanish assets if you didn't have a wild card left? I don't think there'll be heavy markets in potential court. They won't be heavy favorites at all. I would just go for Baumgartner personally, or Xavi Simons, within the midfield position. I'd probably still go Morata personally because I just think the odds for Depay to score even within this match here versus Romania aren't particularly good compared to Morata. So, whereas the midfielders are a lot closer, like Xavi Simons and Baumgartner have amazing sort of odds. So I think definitely you can drop a Pedri if you want. And then if you really want to, I guess you could afford to drop Mbappe, who doesn't have amazing sort of odds. Ronaldo and a yellow have just swapped him for Kane. I mean, suspension threat is one thing, but more often than not, players are sort of aware of the suspension threat. Now, obviously, we saw what Tar did as well on a suspension threat, and things are funny. But Carvajal and Lenormand are probably the big players that a lot of people might own that are also on a suspension threat. Who's better, Cancelo or Nuno Mendes? I'd just say Cancelo just for the overall attack and returns. I think his ball recovery numbers are also better too. Ronaldo plus Stones or Kane plus Pepe? I think I'd go Kane plus Pepe personally because I think Stones just does nothing when it comes to ball recoveries. Do you stay with a striker that gets 5 points? I mean, on match day 1, I'd probably twist. I mean, on day 1 rather. What are you planning to do with the three transfers? I mean, more Germans if they look good. I doubt it because I'm not really. I mean, I'm not going to change my mind really on teams within this tournament. My thoughts, my sentiments on teams aren't really going to change with one fixture unless something like a complete aberration happens. I think it's more than likely I'll invest into maybe that Netherlands-Austria game, which is quite close, but could be pretty high goal scoring potentially. Defensively, I think I'm pretty well set as long as England progress. So I don't think I'm too worried about that. Ultimately, it's not like any of the quarterfinal matches are super kind. So it just still makes sense at the end of the day to maximize on the points from this week and target the easier fixtures, I would say. Is Abishur a good pick? I don't think so at this point in the tournament. You've got a lot more budget. You don't really need to get him. He sort of plays I mean, we saw him play within an almost 10-like role within the first match day, but then obviously we've seen some other matches with Switzerland, particularly in tougher fixtures, where you've seen Abisher sort of shift out to the wide positions, and so he's definitely not as active as he was. Is this my new team? Yes, it is, and it's probably going to be my final team. Who's better, Cancelo or Nuno Mendes? As I said, I'd probably say Cancelo, but Morata or Gakpo? Once again, I'd go Morata. Is Mancini starter? I believe that's the news, but we'll find out the news in around 4 minutes. What made you go walk over stones? Just better ball recoveries. Pedri or Gundo? I mean, look, once again, as I said, if you don't want to overstack on Spain, I think it's totally fine to go Gundo. You can also go Baumgartner. This is my new team, yes. Gakpo or Simons? I'd probably still go Simons over Gakpo. You've got Gundo and Musiala. Should you keep or swap one of them and to how? What do you mean, sorry? Lineups are out. Let's have a look at the lineups for Italy then. Azzurri. Am I wrong, or do I not see the Italian lineup? Or has it been leaked elsewhere? Where is the Italian lineup? Gundo or Simons? I'd probably still go Gundo. It's on the Euro app. Okay, let me have a look at that instead. Thank you. How's my sub strategy? I'm just going to sub out anyone who does poorly, really. I'm expecting all my subs to be quite strong, so yeah. Yeah, I've got the lineups out. So we have Bastoni starting, Mancini starting, Darmian, Di Lorenzo. Obviously, DeMarco was ruled out for the game, so this is a pretty weak Italian lineup. It does have El Shaarawy, which is a pretty big shock, but nothing really too interesting from Italy, if I'm being honest. And then obviously with the Swiss team, you have once again Abisher playing a wide role, which is, as I said, not so great. Mbolo starting, and yeah, I mean, Akanji I think is probably the only player between the two teams that I think I like. I have to say as well, looking at the matchups, right, going back to, let's say, Italy, well, I mean, Italy, I think, sorry, Italy are still favored to beat Switzerland, so I guess you could always go with an Italian defender. I guess it could be Bastoni at this point, but I don't think there's. I would still pick between Bastoni and Mancini. Donnarumma is actually not a bad pick, but then the issue, of course, is I guess you don't really want to lose your keeper that early into the tournament. And you must be also expecting a lot of saves, which is possible because I think Donnarumma, probably one of the better shot stoppers anyways, left within this tournament that is playing for a pretty competent nation. Now, Mamardashvili, of course, is amazing, but, we do expect Spain to beat them. So, yeah, maybe between, let's say, Akanji, Mancini, Bastoni, Donnarumma. These are probably the only players I'd really consider between those two teams. Thoughts on Pence? Pence is fine if you want to go Pence. Carvajal out in my team, yes, but I don't think he's expected to be benched for Spain, if that's what you mean. Is Xhaka bad? I mean, like, I in a game where Switzerland, I think, are less likely to win, I'd probably not pick Granit Xhaka because I think as a controller, you'd expect someone to win the match and then get man of the match, and ultimately there's going to be a winner within this game, so it's not like Granit Xhaka can sort of get man of the match in a draw, if that makes sense. I like the joke though, Connor, is that if Granit Xhaka breathes, he gets man of the match, basically. What do you think about no England attackers? I think that's fine. As I said, England have within the tournament been pretty lackluster, and obviously if you expect for the sort of poor goal scoring performances or even goal creating performance or chance creating performances to continue, then you can sort of continue to bet against England. But I think part of the reason why I've ultimately got Kane within my draft is I expect to not really have to make transfers over Kane. And at the end of the day, out of all the attackers, I think he's got still good minutes and routes towards points. Now, the point about England, as I said, being a pretty weak attack, I think is already, in a sense reflected by a lot of the market odds. It's not like, considering England actually have a nice game, they don't actually have, I think, a crazy amount of projected goals, right? For example, Portugal, Spain, I believe, and even the Netherlands are expected to score more, just a little bit implied. But there's nothing really wrong with keeping someone within the English team that has really good minutes. So I think it's okay to just not even have English attack at all, because look, you can definitely pick players from other teams, and even Mbappe you can argue for sure if you really want to. I think that he's better than Kane. But also Ronaldo just has better odds. Morata's better odds this match too. So if you want to sort of make that judgment from this game, I think that's fine. No Cristiano in the end, Marvy, yeah. But I think there's nothing wrong with Cristiano. If you want to keep Cristiano in your draft, it's totally fine. As I said, the 2-3 players that I'm really missing out from my team is probably Baumgartner and Ronaldo, or even Gundo, I suppose. Points are only not scored during penalty shootouts. Exactly. You can lose your clean sheet in penalty shootouts. You can still score a goal in extra time. Virgil van Dijk or Ake in terms of goals and assists, I would still pick Virgil van Dijk for both. Aaron, thanks for the super chat. Fran, do you like man of the match in this format or bonus points in FPL? I don't like man of the match because I think it's very subjective. You have a panel of completely different people sort of voting on different conditions. Every man of the match feels a little bit different in terms of feel. So, for example, you have man of the matches for, I don't know, like let's say Xhaka versus Germany, which I think is ridiculous because for me, that was more of a Swiss defensive performance. And I don't think he was actually the one who was doing most of the defensive work in that game. It was a lot of the wide players doing a sort of dual role for that team, like Ndoye, for example, defending extremely deep as an offensive player. Center backs did well too. You have some man of the matches like Chiesa, where I don't think he really deserved it, to be quite honest, for the sort of performance that he put in. I think it's very inconsistent and, very subjective. So I'd prefer stuff that's a little bit more consistent. At least with bonus points in FPL, we know kind of how they're racked up and in general how people sort of, consistently get bonus points. Plus, it's also not that impactful in my opinion, because it's very likely in most instances that, your players in FPL don't get actual extra bonus points, right? Because it's very evenly split. Like it can go to a player who's not so well known. Here, of course, I think some people haven't even been watching the games. Like, for example, Eriksson in that match, Denmark versus Serbia, which I was watching that entire match, he had one good shot in the first half and literally won man of the match off of that, which I think is ludicrous to me. That just feels like sort of a big name brand value man of the match, as opposed to a reflection of who actually did well in that game. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I don't really like it. I don't like ball recoveries either because I don't think they're being tracked very well. Stop spamming. I agree with that. Foo gamer. So I'm just gonna have to put you in timeout. We don't like spamming the chat. Thoughts on triple Italy and triple Portugal? I don't really see the value towards triple Italy because it's such a big bet. Like it's such a close game. Generally, probably the closest game that we have towards a 50-50 is Italy versus Switzerland. So, making a big punt on Italy feels a little bit overzealous, I would say. Xavi Simons or Sabitzer, I'd probably still get Sabitzer. Bonus point system is way better, and defenders should get more than free for an assist. You think that just in general for any fantasy game? I mean, that could make sense, but then I think it could also. I think in FPL, obviously defenders are a lot weaker, right? Because you're not getting ball recoveries. So yeah, I think certainly if you were to tell me that in FPL they're going to give more points for an assist, it probably would make fullbacks a little bit too strong in my opinion, but I think we could maybe work around that potentially. Jacques or Pedri, I think I'd definitely go Pedri in that situation. What do you think about Lenormand? Nothing wrong with him. Obviously, he's got one yellow card, so he's pretty close to suspension. But beyond that, very good pick, and I like him. Should you change Carvajal to Cucurella? No reason to drop Carvajal. I ultimately can't even afford Carvajal, so just a bit of context as well as to why I don't have him. But of course, Cucurella has proven to be pretty successful with ball recovery so far. Now, Cucurella got 15 ball recoveries in one game, so a lot of that is very odd sample size, right? One ball recovery in one game, 15 in the other. So it already shows you that we can't necessarily take full comfort, I suppose, in 2 games of sample size for sure, which is what I've indicated for many things. But based on some of the models that I've seen, I think ball recoveries look pretty good with Cucurella. Why not Ruiz for Spain and midfield, guaranteed 90 minutes? I agree he's guaranteed 90 minutes, but at the same time, I think even within the 90 minutes, like I don't necessarily think that his goal scoring sort of potential is going to be that good. Yes, of course, he's already scored and already got an assist, but I think that was obviously a pretty large overperformance, and my expectations for the attacking 10 are still a little bit better for Spain. Do I expect a clean sheet from Spain? Look, if you were to ask me yes or no, I'd lean towards yes. Why no one middle start? Simply a tougher matchup. Rom potentially as well could start over him. Pedri over Fabian Ruiz, just a positional thing. I'd rather the attacking 10 than a center mid. If you want to go Fabian Ruiz instead of Pedri, that's fine. Gakpo Morata, I think, is a little bit nonsense because Spain versus Georgia is probably the most one-sided matchup on paper. So why not go into Morata for that game? Why only one Dutch player? I don't really see the need to necessarily go more into Dutch players. I think I'm happy with the players that I have. Simons, I think, has slightly debatable minutes. I'm not sure if I love the Dutch forwards as much as some of the other forwards I have, so that's pretty much what it comes down to. Stones or Van Dijk or Ake, for me, it's Van Dijk for sure, just because of the ball recoveries and better sort of assist and goal returns than both other picks, in my opinion. Do you get unlimited transfers again? No, unless you have the wildcard chip left. You get unlimited transfers now, but saying Morata is better than Gakpo goes beyond you just being biased as a Spaniard. No, just why don't you just go on a betting website and have a look at the goal scoring odds for Gakpo and Morata and then come back. Why Musiala over Gundo? I just think Musiala personally is very close versus Gundo. I think it's close to a 50-50. And it does come down to your sentiments on the game. I think Gundo might have better minutes. I think Musiala has slightly better odds as far as I can see. Aesthetically, of course, you might argue that we've seen both man of the matches, right? Gundo with a goal and assist getting man of the match, and Musiala getting man of the match from sort of having a wonderful performance within a game. So I'd probably just lean towards one narrative. I don't think one is necessarily better than the other. I think Musiala and Gundo have always been close for this tournament. And because there's no sort of budget limit, I've gone for Musiala here anyways. What do you think about Pedri versus Gundo? Once again, I think I'm definitely a little bit biased towards Spain. You can definitely go for an Austrian midfielder, maybe Xavi Simons, maybe Gundo. If you want to go Gundo, that's fine. I'm sort of betting on Pedri versus Georgia. How am I racist? Not myself. That's so weird. Calling someone a racist because I've asked you to go check some betting website odds. I'm just giving you the market odds. That's all. I don't think Morata's a better player than Gakpo, by the way. I'm just saying he's better versus Georgia as a prediction compared to, let's say, Gakpo versus Romania. Saka or Simons? I'd probably still go Simons, to be honest, because I think, Saka's minutes can be a little bit shakier. Simons, his position in the team probably feels a little bit better. Maybe as well when you can see, for example, the Dutch sort of goal scoring odds, they're actually slightly better than England overall. Which is quite nice. And, I think that, once again, Simons has sort of improved in terms of his status within the team. So I think the minutes are quite similar. And based on the odds that I've seen, as I said, Saka seems to have much less goal and assist share within this English team, which is fine. Whereas Simons does have a little bit more of that share. You miss club football now. Yeah, so do I. I'd love FPL to come back. Ake or Van Dijk? I'd still go Van Dijk personally. Is Schlotterbeck a good differential? I think Schlotterbeck is interesting, but the issue, of course, is, what happens if Tar comes back anyways. Thanks, Joel. Appreciate that. CR7 is better odds than Mbappe. As I said, sentimental because I think I'm leaning more towards France being favored towards Portugal within that sort of quarterfinal match. So the reason why I've not gone for CR7 is because I do think that there are chances where, of course, his minutes could be worse than Mbappe. And I do think Kane will obviously progress a little bit better. As far as Morata, similar odds to, let's say, Ronaldo, and then obviously there's a price point issue with getting all the best players that I want within my team if I went for Ronaldo as well. For example, if I went for Ronaldo within this team over Morata, the issue with price point is I'd probably have to drop some of the defenders that I do really like at the end of the day, and I did want to have someone like Virgil van Dijk, for example, within the team. I guess, of course, you can argue that I can just do Musiala to Gundo, which is fine. That would enable sort of Morata back to Ronaldo. But for me, it's all pretty close. And of course, sentimentally, I'm just going to back the Spaniards. Only one German player is crazy. That's fine with me. If you want to go, I think you can definitely go 2 or 3 German players if you want. Please rank Gakpo, Ronaldo, Mbappe, and Kane. Why? I think, honestly, I'd still put Kane pretty high up there because, of course, his ability to advance, the odds of advancing are pretty high. Then I'd probably pick Ronaldo. Sorry, then I'd probably pick Mbappe, just because I think I'd expect France to beat Portugal, and I do think Mbappe is a bit more talismanic than Ronaldo. When I look at, for example, some of the goal share and implied assist odds for Mbappe, they're definitely better than Ronaldo. Goal share obviously favored to Ronaldo for this specific fixture, but I also think Mbappe has sort of complete X-Men, whereas Ronaldo, obviously, I think there's still situations where he can be subbed off, if Roberto Martinez ever chooses to sort of make that decision. And then I'd go Gakpo last. But I can understand going for Gakpo if you want a bit more of a well-rounded draw. So, for example, if you think that Mbappe and Ronaldo, they have a tough matchup because they're facing off in the quarterfinal, in theory, I suppose, the Dutch have two pretty open fixtures, right, to score a lot of goals within both Romania and then obviously provisionally Austria. So it is pretty close, but it might be a price point ish thing as well if you go for Depay, and that could be, change your consideration. N'Golo Kante or Rodri, I'd probably go Rodri. I think it's just a much better matchup anyways. And if Rodri's on penalty share, that makes a huge difference. Gonna have to put you in timeout though. I'm only debating Mbappe versus Ronaldo. I think once again it's close. Another sentiment is if you, let's say, go for Bruno and Cancelo, you might be overstacked towards Portugal over, let's say, France. So that is something to look at. KDB or Bellingham, I'd still probably go Bellingham once again for the simple just reason that England have much better chances of advancing in the tournament. Instead of Pedri, I think you can definitely go Baumgartner, who definitely piques my interest. Because once again, look, if you go for Gundo, if you go for Musiala, the issue anyways is that they face off against Spain. Whereas obviously with Baumgartner or Sabitzer, if they advance, which I think is quite likely versus Turkey, they're still going to be versus a Dutch team that I think is, I would say, where you'd expect the Austria goal share to be quite high once again anyways. Whereas obviously Spain versus Germany could be very, very close, and expectedly could be something like Italy versus Switzerland. Is Rudiger the best German defender? With probably the uncertainty over Mittelstadt, I think that does make sense. Dutch attack. I think Dutch attack is perfectly fine. As I said, if you want a bit more of a well-rounded draft to ensure, of course, that you have Dutch players, that you have Austrian players as well, that's fine. Carvajal over Cucurella if you have cash to spare. I think that's fine if you want to back sort of Carvajal's attack and returns. I think the general expectation is Cucurella might be a little bit better than, let's say, Carvajal in ball recoveries. You probably wouldn't recommend Baumgartner if you're going Posh and Sabitzer. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'd triple up on Austria. To be fair, I do like Posh. He's an attacking player, but of course, I do like my clean sheet odds as well, and it's not like Posh is amazing at ball recoveries. So I think that's the only thing that goes against Posh potentially. Thoughts on Fulkrug? It's a tough game. It's Denmark, right? So based on the odds that I've seen, I'm not really sure if I'd love Fulkrug. I think a lot of the other forwards are very interesting. CNZ, Saliba, Cancelo, or Karnanak. I'd definitely go Cancelo. NRX Fuse, why Van Dijk over Carvajal and why no Mittelstadt? So with Van Dijk, I think, there's the opportunity for good goals and assists. Carvajal, part of the reason is just simply I wanted to back triple Spain versus Georgia for what is on paper the most one-sided attacking matchup. So that's why I've sort of preferred triple Spain there. I also think when it comes to the quarterfinal, obviously a much tougher game for Spain. In the quarterfinal, I'd expect Germany to score anyways in that game. So a little bit of that consideration is that Van Dijk could do a touch better. He's also better for the ball recoveries as well compared to Carvajal. And, we obviously have some implication that he might take penalties, that he's also on set pieces when Depay's off the field. So I do like Virgil van Dijk's sort of overall routes towards points. And Mittelstadt, unfortunately, one tougher fixture, of course, in this match here, you can see the clean sheet odds versus Denmark are a little bit lower than, for example, what Spain have versus Georgia or what the Dutch have versus Romania. So on that basis, plus, of course, the risk with Rome, I do think Mittelstadt is a bit of a risk and not exactly that high on him. Is Denmark playing really tough, considering they have played? To be fair, I think you can argue that Denmark have been pretty blunt on offense, and part of that might be that entire group were very defensive for whatever reason. So when you actually look at the XG for the entire tournament for all the teams, I believe Serbia, Slovenia, England, and Denmark. Well, actually, every team except for Denmark was actually within the bottom 5 or 6 teams for attack. So it already shows you maybe that group was very blunt on attack. But Denmark were able to defend very well within that group. So I think that is a good credit to Denmark. So that for most of the time that I can remember, for at least the last 8 years, I think Denmark have been always, getting knocked out by draws, getting knocked out by one goal. So they've always been a very, very well matched team, and they've been able to score in some of the tough games as well. So I do think that Denmark are historically just a very strong international team, but definitely a bit more of a mid card team, if that makes sense. Lamine Yamal, I think, is fantastic. If he was a midfielder, he'd definitely be in my draft. Unfortunately, he isn't. So I think in that situation, because you're not necessarily, additionally rewarded like a usual midfielder would, I'd probably just go with Morata, who's got better goal share. This is my lock team. Yes, it is indeed. Should we consider Laporte over Carvajal due to a suspension risk? I think you can definitely do that. I think that's a wise choice. Do you have any chips left? I do indeed. What should I do if I've used both in the group stage? I think if you have used your chips already, look at the bracket, try to create a little bit more of a well-rounded team. Think about getting maybe an additional Dutch player, for example, maybe a forward, maybe Xavi Simons, maybe an additional Austrian player as well. Of course, Posh is there. You could also consider going double Austrian mid, which is actually sort of my favorite avenue. If you drop someone like Pedri from my draft and go for Baumgartner, that's very sensible. If you don't really want to invest too much into, let's say, the France-Portugal match, which could be, a little bit dull, a little bit flat, you can obviously go for a Dutch player as well. Hi, Fran. Gundo, Baumgartner. I'd probably go Baumgartner, but nothing wrong with Gundo. Xavi Simons a nailed-on starter. I don't think I can say he's nailed, to be honest, because we've seen him benched already. But the reality is, with Veerman having such a poor performance, with Simons, for the most part, actually having good performances so far within this tournament, I do think that he's good to go for around 75 minutes. But obviously is prone to being subbed off. Why Sabitzer over Baumgartner? I don't think Baumgartner has better assist threat at all. I think he definitely has better goal threat, but Sabitzer's on corners, particularly with Wimmer being out, and I do expect for Sabitzer to potentially be on penalties if Arnautovic is off the pitch. Any Germany news? We can have a look. Let's have a look at Germany news if we can find any news on that team. Weird one, because I still don't see any notable predictions from sort of reputable German websites on a lineup. I can try to double check if you guys want. Yep, still doesn't really seem like we have too much German news. So obviously there's some concerns over Mittelstadt, which I think is sensible just because the yellow card, but obviously that applies to multiple other defenders like Carvajal, like Lenormand as well. But yeah, for the most part, I think Germany, the only provisional lineup change we're expecting, I believe, is Füllkrug over Havertz. Why Kane? Just for the expectation that he's going to advance quite deep into the tournament. Why not CR7? I don't think there's anything wrong with CR7, so it's not about... These choices are very similar. I think it was between CR7 and Mbappe for me. I really like Morata. I really like the Georgia game. I think France for Spain. I just didn't want to make sure... I didn't want to have too many Portuguese players, basically, when I think France is arguably more likely to get through that game, potentially. Captain Gundo Musiala. I'd go Musiala, but I think it's a true 50-50. Pepe Arake, no chips left. I'd probably go Pepe for the ball recoveries. I think obviously being a center back, positionally speaking, helps generally, of course, unless you want to pull out a Cucurella type performance. Am I using wildcard next game week? Probably not. I think I'll plan to use the wildcard in match day 6. Defense is very solid, but I struggle to see a clean sheet versus Germany. We talk about Denmark here. Simons or Gundo, and no Netherlands defense is okay. I'd probably back the Netherlands defense more so than the offense, personally. You'll be there for the Morata 65-minute sub. Yeah, but I mean, you can enjoy the Ronaldo 90-minute blank once again. Who do you expect to perform? Who do you expect to perform the best in each of your positions? I think Bruno in the midfield, Morata in the forward position, maybe Guehi in the defender position, or Van Dijk, and then probably Pickford within the goalkeeping position. What do you think of Dumfries? I think Dumfries is good. He should probably play. Ouch on the CR7 burn. It's just a joke, obviously. I love Ronaldo as a pick within this tournament. There's nothing wrong with it. By 65 minutes, Spain might have 5 goals. Hey, we will be there. We will be there. The thing is, if Morata's coming off at 65 minutes, it probably does imply that Spain's done well. I don't see many situations where Morata's coming off at 65 minutes and he hasn't done a single thing, if that makes any sense. So I feel like that type of argument is always a little bit flawed, because it's not like Morata is some sort of dud where we just sub him off automatically, no matter what. So yeah, like there are situations where I'm sure at one point in the tournament we'll use Joselu as well, like a Weghorst type of, play. But Morata for the most part will be playing 75, 80 minutes if we haven't really secured the game. For example, he came off versus Italy at around 78 minutes. Versus Croatia, if I just quickly have a look, he also had a knock, keep in mind, versus Croatia. But even in that game, when did Morata come off? Yeah, he came off at 67 minutes, but he did have a knock. And we also had already at that point had a 3-0 lead, and we were just trying to hold down that lead. So, generally speaking, the easier the game is, the earlier the substitutions, but you can't really try to think from that point of view. Because obviously if you're implying a lot of returns, then you might as well just go for that player in the first place. No chance almost starts. I think there's a very, very minimal chance almost starts. I think Pedri's been incredible within the tournament so far. I think he's linked up, the team brilliantly. I think Olmo literally played versus the worst team in our group, and he had a decent performance, but I do not see Pedri. Sorry, I do not see any world where Pedri gets benched for Olmo unless he's injured. Ake or Carvajal, I'd go Carvajal. Benching Pedri would be disgraceful. I agree with you thoroughly. I think it's wild. Why'd I prefer Musiala or Gundo? Just a sentimental choice. Nothing in particular. Musiala odds a little bit better than Gundo, both on assist and goals, so I've just gone for that. Midfielder differential. Baumgartner, for me, is my favorite differential. Xavi Simons is also a very good differential, too. Thoughts on Cole Palmer? I don't even see Cole Palmer starting, so I think that's tough. There's a legitimate chance. There is no legitimate chance that Grimaldo starts over Cucurella. If Grimaldo starts versus Cucurella, you can come back on this stream tomorrow when Spain play, and you can absolutely ratio me, but I do not see it at all. I don't see a chance. What rank are you in the world? 107,000. Sabitzer, Gundo, or Simons? I'd probably go Sabitzer personally. Will Fulkrug start? I don't know, but I think that's the rumor. As I said, I can't confirm that. Morata's not injured. No, that's not true. Spain have a full team in training. Carvajal or Normand, if money not a problem, I'd probably go Carvajal. 107,000. Pedri could play 8 instead of 10. I don't see how Pedri could play 8 instead of 10. We're going to play the same team versus Italy, and I don't see how he fits in as a 10 or as an 8. Luis de la Fuente has explicitly spoken that Pedri is going to be playing as a 10 for us in this tournament, that he's going to be playing in between the lines. I don't see how he's going to suddenly play as an 8. Nico or Ruiz, I'd go Nico personally. Ruiz or Gundo, I'd go Gundo. Gakpo for Morata, I'd go Morata for sure. As I said, I think Spain versus Georgia seems to be the most one-sided, matchup within this tournament. I don't think that's an indictment on Morata or that Gakpo is worse than Morata. It's just based on the matchups. I just personally think Morata is better, and that's it. But obviously, if you want a bit more of a well-rounded draft and you want players from that sort of Dutch side of the quadrant, totally fine to go Gakpo if you want to. But obviously recognize that markets still see that it's an amazing Morata game on paper, more so than, let's say, a Gakpo or Depay game. Who should I put instead of Bellegoal? Anyone you want. I think we've got plenty of midfielders to do well. For me, Bruno Fernandes is probably the only player that is a lock. I like Williams, I like Pedri, I like Baumgartner, I like Gundo, I like Musiala, I like Simons as well. Lots of good players, even Rodri too. Why not Ruiz? For me, he's a center mid. I think he's played very well within this tournament so far, but I do not really see him being the consistent sort of goal scoring output for Spain within this tournament. And if Fabian Ruiz is going to score most of our goals and assists, then we're probably going to get knocked out. What do you think of having Donnarumma on captaincy? For day one, I think if you don't really have confidence within, let's say, your German players, I think that's fine. Did I say Pedri is playing 10? Yeah, Pedri's been playing 10 this entire tournament. Pedri or Ruiz, I've already explained. If you're trying to hold wild card, it's hard to not go Gakpo. I think if you're trying to hold it, I think if you're holding the wild card, surely you don't need to. All right, Emmanuel. No spamming. I'm sorry. Just get a straight hide, because you know. Is there any prize for first in my league? Nope. Is Donnarumma a good pick? I think Donnarumma is a decent pick, but of course the odds of them advancing versus Switzerland and then of course advancing versus England aren't exactly quite good. So I think, yeah. Sorry, we have shadow banned. No, don't spam the chat. You know that this chat isn't for spamming. So if you're just gonna purposely spam with full caps, then You pay the price. Do you rate Bernardo Silva? I think he's okay, but to be honest, I just don't see situations where I'd ever go Bernardo Silva over Bruno Fernandes. I know Silva's sort of playing a wing type role. It's not like he's playing deep or anything like that, like he does sometimes for City. So he's still interesting, but for most cases, I'd pick Bruno. Ronaldo or Mbappe. I think look, it comes down to I think Ronaldo has a much better game this match round, but I also just didn't want to sort of overstep in terms of going for too many Portuguese players, right? So I wanted a little bit of balance, and therefore I've gone for Mbappe. You love that Yamal indicated that he wants Nico Williams to join him at Barcelona. I don't love that though. I'm a Real Madrid fan, so I don't really want to see more players playing for Barcelona. I love the kids. I love Nico. I love Yamal. Amazing players, but don't necessarily want to see Nico at Barcelona. Double Austrian midfielder or one Austrian and one English. I think both work. Personally, I'd probably go double Austrian because I think there are better ways to sort of spend the quadruple English money on. But no, I think both are fine. Akanji mad of the match incoming. I mean, it could happen, but of course, it's also a bet a little bit against Italy as well. Henry, thank you so much for the super chat. In tears over José Luis' message. Hace años me marché, pero jamás me fui. Hoy también me marcho, pero en realidad me quedo. Yeah, I mean, like, he's, look, one of the greatest loan spells. Lovely loan spell. Like, just everyone will remember that one. And the moment versus Bayern Munich. So incredible. Is Conte a good choice? I think it's tough, right? Because the fixtures are, look, I understand the sentiment. So the tougher the game is for France, I guess in theory, you'd expect the Conte to do better, right? More ball recoveries potentially, more man of the match potential, since that's the type of game that maybe Conte thrives in. But do I love Conte as a pick? If I'm being honest, I don't really do. I'd still try to back players who are more than likely going to score more goals and assists, particularly since you're sort of not price blocked and France just simply have tough games. Why Sabitzer over Gundo? I think it makes sense to back some of the Austrian mids who have a very good matchup versus a very, very weak Turkish team that have been pretty defensively fragile. As I've seen from the odds, the Austrian mids are favored compared to, let's say, some of the German mids. And for that reason, I've actually decided to go with, let's say, players like Sabitzer. Van Dijk better than Ake? In my opinion, yes. Is Akanji a good option? I still think he is. Obviously, ball recoveries are definitely significant. If Baumgartner was in your team for Pedri, what defender would you take out for Carvajal? I wouldn't necessarily just go for Carvajal. I can totally understand if you want a bit more of a well-rounded draft to not go Carvajal at all. But I'd probably drop... tough one, but I might drop Walker potentially. It's a bit of a weird one. I'd probably still want to go Walker. Maybe I'd drop Van Dijk, but it still feels odd. That's why I found it hard to personally go with Carvajal. I mean, you could go Unai Simon as well, but that obviously means you can't go for Pickford, so things do change. Well, to be fair, you could actually go Verbruggen, and you could go Unai Simon if you want. That's not a bad pair up. Thoughts on Saka as a differential pick? I think he's totally fine as a pick, and obviously I think his minutes are relatively safe within the team as a starter. As you can see, I think a lot of people have expectations that Southgate's going to rotate, but every time we see maximally one change, and that's probably going to be Southgate, unless of course Trippier's injured, at which point we'll see two changes, which would be apparently Ezri Konsa left back and Manu obviously center mid. I have 0.5 left. What to do? You don't need to spend your money. Pick the best players. It's not about spending 100 million or 105 million. Sabitzer shoots pens probably after Arnautovic, but some people have made a good point that Baumgartner could also take pens. Foden, good differential player, good the other. He's played well probably the last two matches, but there's some. I think Foden should start, so I think he's a good differential. Yeah, obviously some people have some thoughts about his wife having a baby and all that, but I think Foden should start. Fulkrug got a score. Go for Fulkrug then. Wonder how many people have not copied my team. No copied or yes copied? Which side would you pick? Ronaldo plus Mendes or plus Cucurella plus Ake or Gakpo, Cancelo, Carvajal, Van Dijk? I'd probably go Ronaldo. I'd probably go Ronaldo plus Pepe plus Cucurella plus Ake. But I don't know if I really love... I mean, there's parts of it that I love and don't love, right? I think both are close. And that's what makes it so hard. Maybe I actually prefer the Gakpo quadrant just because I do like Cancelo and Van Dijk. Mancini is a differential. I think that's fine. Why Van Dijk over Ake, even though Van Dijk has only got one more ball recovery point over Ake, who has played lesser minutes and is more of an attacking threat? I mean, what makes you actually think Ake is more of an attacking threat? Because he's gotten 2 assists so far, or because you generally think he's got more attacking threat consistently? Where's Fabian Ruiz in my team? I've got no interest in him in my team. Tiggy, good luck to all. Please hit the like button. Thank you so much, Tiggy. Appreciate it, and hope you have a wonderful time. I mean, at the end of the day, Fabian Ruiz is basically our centre mid for Spain, so I don't really see... Just because you've cheesed a Fabian Ruiz man of the match where he potentially played the game of his life in a Spanish kit doesn't necessarily mean that I've got to go Fabian Ruiz Matchday 4. I'm worried about Morata's minutes, not in the sense that I think it can be any lower than 70 minutes unless he obviously does really well and we just sort of rotate the team, right? I think Morata will, stay on the pitch until we get returns. Hey, Fran, still going for Georgian players. Would you go for Bernardo Silva or Pedri/Sabitzer? I'd probably go Sabitzer personally. Why Van Dijk over Ake? Once again, as I said, I generally expect Virgil van Dijk to get more goals and assists consistently. I'm not hating on Fabian. I'm literally Spanish and I want him to do well, but he's our center mid. I'm usually just going to expect a 10 to do better than a center mid when it comes to goals and assists. Because the whole point, right, when you're playing fantasy games is that I'm not sitting here trying to choose players who have done well previously. I'm trying to choose players who have done well, who will do well in the future. And the best way I know of do that is looking at data, looking tactically as well, and trying to imply things. And I don't really see how Fabian Ruiz is going to be the best route towards points. He's played amazing, and he's definitely within the team in the tournament, Fabian Ruiz is, but so is Toni Kroos. But I don't see Toni Kroos in any of our teams. And because it's just generally less likely that someone who plays a little bit deeper in the park will get a lot of fantasy points apart from man of the match when you're, let's say, Granit Xhaka and you just get man of the match whenever you play. Nuno or Cancelo, I'd probably go Pepe over Nuno, but I'd probably go Cancelo over both. It's an odd one though with Spain. He gets forward a lot. I think he gets forward a lot more than Rodri. I think that's fair. But generally speaking, if you look at the touches that Pedri has had, even if you look at expected goal involvement, Pedri is well clear of Fabian Ruiz, so it's not even close right now, and it's already sort of reflective of the sort of positions that everyone has within the team. So it's very clear that Fabian Ruiz has already overperformed, because he's nowhere near the top of the sort of XGI ranks. Who would you go, Virgil van Dijk, Theo, or Ruben Diaz? I'd go Virgil van Dijk for sure. Just I think better sort of goal and assist returns than Ruben Diaz. Probably worse clean sheet odds than Ruben, but better clean sheet odds than Theo. Much better at ball recoveries than Theo Hernandez as well. And Ruben Diaz, I'm sorry, but he makes me fall asleep. We don't own Baumgartner, but I'm sure he'll score. I don't own Baumgartner, but I do own him in another fantasy game. Why Morata before Yamal? Just for the goal share. Hey, Fran, would you go Walker to triple up England defense? Well, I'd probably still go Virgil van Dijk for a little bit of flexibility. Full Kroger Gakpo, I'd probably go Gakpo. Could Walker start left back? 100%. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think apparently the news is Consa will play. Quadruple Spain with that wild card, Fran? I do have a wild card. I think you can go quadruple Spain with wild card even, without wild card anyways, but it's probably safer to go triple Spain if you really want to. I do think that there's a flip side to it, right? Spain technically have the best fixture, so going quadruple Spain, you could in theory sort of maximize the points now, and the flip side of that is maybe you lose one transfer potentially if we lose to Germany, but the dividends could be worth it, of course, if we get that sort of haul correct with Georgia. So bit of a flip side there. You need to consider that and what you're prepared to sort of take as a risk. Do you think Depay is going to start? Yeah, I can't see why he wouldn't. Walker and Pedri or Xavi and Carvajal? I'd go Walker and Pedri. Baumgartner or Pedri? I'd go Baumgartner. Thoughts on, as I said, I'm a little bit biased towards Pedri, and I just want to back my Spanish players, and I don't think they're too far apart, but I would generally prefer going Baumgartner over Pedri if I was a betting man. Is double Spain defense a bad idea? There's nothing wrong with double Spain. They have the best clean sheet odds for this match. Words benched? I can't see it. Why Pedri and not Fabian Ruiz? Once again, attacking 10 is Pedri. Slightly less attacking center mid is Fabian Ruiz, and I'm going to go with our attacking 10. Vitinha or Baumgartner? I'd probably go Baumgartner. Can I make transfers in between the games tomorrow? You can't make transfers in between the games. You need to wait until the deadline's over. So you can only make transfers between the match days, but you can make substitutions between the match day. So, for example, between day 1, between day 2, between day 3, you can make substitutions, but you can't make transfers. You can make transfers, for the future, but it's not going to reflect your team live, if that makes sense. So you certainly can make transfers right after this deadline, for example. Thoughts on Rudiger? I mean, I still don't really like the Germany clean sheet odds, and obviously the next predicted matchup is going to be Spain, so I don't really love Rudiger, to be fair. You meant subs in between the games? Yeah, of course. You in between the games, no. You kind of need to wait until the end of the day to make that. Why Morata over Ronnie? Bit of Spanish bias. Wanted to have the sort of center forward versus Georgia, and that's pretty much it. Nico Williams or Phil Foden? I'd probably go Nico Williams just for the matchup. Up to you though. Obviously, if you have expectations that England are gonna, I guess, excel on attack, then you can definitely go Foden if you want. But I think the odds for Spain to do well as an attack are very good. And I'd take my chances with Nico Williams within this specific matchup here. Carvajal instead of Cancelo, I'd probably still go Cancelo if I'm honest. Slightly better at ball recoveries than Carvajal. Carvajal also with a small suspension threat too. The final boss, no, he's not, and Fran doesn't think so either. What do we talk about here? Oh, is Bernardo better than Bruno? I don't think Bruno's deep at all within the games that I'm seeing. Thoughts on a Kanji punt? I mean, if you want to go for it, fine. I just think it's so close, that matchup. I don't think Italy looks strong, but I don't think necessarily I'd favor, let's say, Switzerland or Italy right now. I think it's pretty close to 50-50. Reason why I haven't actually gone Ronaldo ultimately is just that I wanted a little bit of, flexibility in terms of not maximizing on 4 Portuguese players. And that's why I've sort of made that decision to go Mbappe over Ronaldo. Williams or Pedri, if we have to choose one. I'd probably go Williams. Cancelo or Van Dijk, I'd probably go Van Dijk. Why Van Dijk or Ake? Just prefer his general sort of routes towards points. And as I said, I'm betting on the future, not betting on the past. Best mid outside your midfield, Baumgartner, in my opinion. Italy squad looks horrid. That's true. Would you go Baumgartner, Xavi Simons, Saka, or Gundo? I'd probably go Baumgartner. Can't wait for Porsche to get benched. I was a Serie A player, Serie A fantasy player this season, and that happened a lot to me. That was really frustrating. Gundo Musiala. Look, I think it's a very close one, Gundo Musiala. I don't think there's anything that necessarily makes them too far apart from each other. I'd probably go Musiala personally. Simons as a differential or Gundo. I mean, if you want a differential, I think Simons is perfectly fine. So you need to weigh in your own mind whether you want a differential or not. Do you think that Middlestat actually gets benched? I mean, if there's a worry that Middlestat gets benched, why not just go for a player who's actually nailed? Sabitzer or Baumgartner? For this game, I'd say Sabitzer. Pedri's interesting. Why not Gundo? Gundo, is it for differential? Yeah, pretty much. Where can you play FPL for clubs during season? What do you mean by FPL for clubs? You'd say Gundo because he has more chances and he takes pens? Yeah, but I mean, look, it's Germany versus Denmark. It's not Germany versus Georgia, right? Okay to have both Gundo and Musiala. That's fine. If you want to go double Germany offense once again, very good. What do you think about Bastoni? Totally fine, but I think the issue that I have with, let's say, going with one of the Italian Swiss players is, okay, hard to even pick who's going to win between Italy and Switzerland. And then second of all, I don't even know what's going to happen. I think they're just going to face England and probably lose out at that point in the tournament if I'm a betting person. So tough. Swiss attackers are interesting. Ndoye or Mbolo. I think Ndoye has been pretty interesting, but I'd go Mbolo if you really want to go there. I don't see how it's interesting though per se. I think it's a very tough matchup for both teams, and it should be low scoring. Why Pedri? Just the attacking 10 for Spain. I can't really see why he's a bad option. Like fantasy for Serie A, where do you play those? There's a website, so you should be able to just Google Serie A fantasy and you can find that. There's an official sort of Serie A fantasy as well. Any minutes for Ferran Torres as a substitute, sure, but not as a starter. Who's on pens for Spain? Rodri. Saka / Baumgartner and Carvajal. I mean, there's also a small chance it could be Morata, but I still really expect for it to be Rodri. What was my matchday 3 points? 61. Thoughts on Koundé? I think, he's less interesting as an attacker anyways compared to Teo. And then in terms of ball recovery, he's not particularly interesting. So I'd obviously just go for one of the defenders between Saliba and Upamecano if you really want ball recoveries. Saliba or Koundé, I'd go Saliba. Why'd you captain Musiala over Cucurella? Because Musiala plays today, Cucurella doesn't play today. Is this a watch party? Probably will be. I might not do it though, because might have some plans to watch the game with a friend. Who are some people you wish you could fit in? Baumgartner for sure. Cristiano Ronaldo. I think that's it. Maybe Carvajal even. But why Pedri over Ruiz? Because Ruiz are centre mid and Pedri's are attacking 10. Why not Magnan over Costa? I think just better game here in this matchup. And then I think Portugal, France probably a little bit of 50-50, so I don't really care either way. Why Pedri, not Ruiz? I've already explained. Pedri's are attacking 10. He's gone into much better spots. Obviously, he hasn't scored as much as Fabian, but as I said, I'm predicting for the future, not predicting for the past. Why no Italian players like Chiesa or Bastoni? I mean, why would you go Chiesa? He's a forward, and he's got one of the worst matchups. Bastoni or Barella? Once again, tough match here in this game versus Switzerland. I think there are better defenses with better clean sheet odds for the defenders, and players who are also equally capable of getting ball recoveries and with Barella, just as another center mid that I'm not particularly interested in. Cancelo, Mendes, and why? I'd probably go Cancelo, just overall better attacking threat. And can sort of play very advanced positions on the pitch. Obviously, so can Mendes, but I think we've seen Mendes also play center back as well, technically. You know, Baumgartner plus Simon or Pickford plus Pedri. I'd probably go Baumgartner plus Simon, to be honest. When I think I do like it because end of the day, I think Baumgartner is an amazing differential. And I do really like Simon. I think it's a very sort of robust pick. FPL Salah. What do you mean? Have I seen this? Sorry. Have I missed something? Are you referring to the group chat? Depay or Gakpo? Does ownership percent matter? Look, I mean, Depay and Gakpo are interesting, right? So obviously Gakpo, you'd say obviously form per se, better minutes than Depay, but Depay obviously has interesting routes towards points. Like he's on various amounts of set pieces. When I look at the goal and assist odds, I think it's very close between the two. Now, if you actually think Virgil van Dijk is the penalty taker, obviously just don't go Depay. But I think a lot of people still expect Depay to be the penalty taker, so I'd probably go Depay in most instances. But I think they're very close and not much to really split between the two. Yeah, thanks. No, I appreciate that, Abdul. Because the thing is, I've looked at this source, and for me, these are one of those accounts that has completely paid followers because you can see that there's literally 0 impressions for this Football España source. They even made a pretty ridiculous claim as well that apparently Dani Olmo could start over Pedri, which I think has also caused a rumor within the media, or not, just within the Twitter timeline. It makes no sense to me that Olmo would start at all, and no sort of Spanish outlet has really mentioned any of this sort of news. The only outlet that we've seen is that Navas is back in training, and yes, of course, there's a yellow card suspension threat, but I think if anything, it sort of reminds me of the Nagelsmann substitution where, look, okay, fine, Todd got the yellow card, but I think if it would happen within the Spanish game versus Georgia, you'd probably see Navas come in second half to sort of replace Carvajal at best. Why Musiala and not Gundo? I think it's a 50-50, so you can just make your own decision when it comes to Musiala and Gundo. They're very, very close players and very good. When Gundo gets more mins and pens, well, obviously, if even with the implication that Gundo has penalty share, you'll see actually on markets that Musiala actually has similar goal odds compared to Gundo, and actually he takes more shots than Gundo, and also that he has better assist share than Gundo. So I think it's very close. Yeah, no Spanish outlet is reporting any surprises, which is correct. Virgil van Dijk or Walker? I'd probably go Virgil van Dijk just so we actually can get multiple players from different sides of the bracket. And please stop spamming the chat. Thank you very much. Laporte starting. I can't see why Laporte wouldn't start. Every single Spanish player is in training as far as I'm aware. And I do not think that anyone's going to get benched. Cucurella versus Carvajal. I think Carvajal slightly better sort of goal and assist threat. Cucurella better for ball recoveries, but both very close. Keep in mind, of course, that Carvajal has a yellow card suspension threat, so I think Cucurella probably is the safer choice. Which one should I captain, Musiala or Gundo? As I said, it's a bit of 50-50. You can go and choose your own narrative. As I said, the betting odds for Musiala and Gundo are very similar. There's not really much of a decision to be made. If you want to go Gundo for the minutes, that's totally fine. Is Conte a good option? I'd probably say no, but if you want to go Conte for the narrative of tougher game means better Conte, then go for it. Is there any other 6 million midfielder I'd prefer? It's a good point, to be honest, in terms of 6 million, that sort of price bracket. Let me think about the 6 million midfielders. Probably, I think it's between Vitinha and Conte. So if you want to go Conte, I think it's totally fine. I'd probably go Vitinha personally, but I can understand going Conte. Is this a no wildcard team? Not really, no. I do have my wildcard left. If I didn't have a wildcard, I'd probably drop one of the Spanish players. I'd probably have another Dutch player, so maybe 2 Dutch, 1 Austrian. So I'd probably go double Austrian mid and maybe 2 Dutch players. Could consider maybe Simons, could consider potentially Depay. Thanks. Is Xavi Simons over Conte? You could go that as well if you want. Is it a bad idea in general to have players who are playing against each other? I mean, I don't think you can avoid it, right? Think about this. Like we're all going to try and pick players who are going to face off versus each other, right? If you're picking a French player and a Portuguese player, they're most likely going to face off versus each other. If you're picking a Spanish player and a German player, they're most likely going to face off versus each other. The only team that I haven't picked here that won't face off versus one of my players is going to be, some players between, let's say, between Italy and Switzerland. Now, even if you picked, let's say, an Austrian player, they're most likely going to face off versus a Dutch player if they both advance. So the reality is, by trying to pick the teams that are favored to do well, you're going to pit teams and players specifically who will face off versus each other. It's an eventuality that you have to face, and there's nothing wrong with picking players that will face off versus each other, because it probably just means that you pick the right players that have advanced, that have done well, and that's fine. Are you worried about Morata's minutes? Not really. Not obviously he's not going to have like 90 minutes of football, but the question, of course, is always going to be, if he gets 70 minutes of football versus Georgia, can he get the job done? Sorry, and I think he can. Ronaldo and Laporte or Pepe and Mbappe. I'd probably go Pepe and Mbappe, to be honest. Is Silva a good option? You're not sure, him or Simons? I'd probably still go Simons. Am I playing my wild card at final 8 or 4? It really just depends on whether there's a lot of upsets in the round of 16. If there's not, I'll probably play it in the final 4. Virgil van Dijk takes penalty. I would hope so, but yeah. Apparently, someone said that Koeman reiterated that Virgil van Dijk is on pens, but I didn't really see that news. So I still think it's Depay first, then Virgil van Dijk, but we'll see. Can you rank the 4 Spanish picks as captains? Within my own team, is that sort of your question? I'd probably just captain Cucurella. If I have Ronaldo and Bruno Opinion, what does that mean? Sorry. On then, oh right, if you've got 2 of them, I'd go Kante, yeah, for sure. Is Ronaldo not going to play, or why did you replace him out? Ronaldo will play, I think 100%. The reason why I've replaced him simply is because I preferred Mbappe, and I didn't really want to have quadruple Portugal at the end of the day. Your accent sounds slightly Scottish. You might, I don't know. I'd say I have an international accent. My accent's all over the place. I've been living in different places in the world, speaking to different people, and probably like absorbing different sources of media across the world. So I'm sure I have various inflections from various accents. Depay or Gakpo? I'd probably go Depay. I tend to still think he's on penalties, but if you don't, then obviously just go Gakpo. Very close, so anyways, when it comes to the goal and assist odds for the 2 players. Donnarumma or Pickford? I'd probably go Pickford just so that he can last longer within the tournament. Too much of a risk going without Mbappe and Kane for Gakpo and Morata. Makes sense if you want to go for the 2 of them. Should I go for Nico Williams or Pedri? I'd still probably go Nico Williams at the end of the day. Can you go triple English plus double Spanish for defense? I think that's fine. It's a lack of diversity, but to be honest, I've had very good experiences with multiplying on, or like hedging over a very strong team, right? We tend to do that all the time in FPL. For example, I remember when Newcastle was a really good defense, I went triple Newcastle 2 seasons ago. Not last season, of course, they were horrible in defense, but I generally have good experiences backing good defenses. Last season, I backed double Arsenal defense because they're very strong. Accent is definitely American. I'd say it's more of an international school accent, because most Americans can tell that I'm not American. But obviously when I'm here in England, most people will say I'm American. Middlestat not starting. I think there's a rumor, but I wouldn't be sure about it. Just want to say cheers, you're the GOAT. Thank you, Cube. Appreciate that. Kanji. Up to you. I said, once again, the Italy versus Switzerland game is probably the most 50-50 game that we have within the round of 16. So I don't have really a preference for picking any of the players from both sides, because it's almost like a coin toss. I'd rather sort of have players from the team that I think where the toss, or I suppose the coin, is most likely going to land into, as opposed to a 50-50. It's definitely a Connecticut accent who went to boarding school in Switzerland. What does that even mean, bro? It was a good attempt, Brian, but I grew up in Hong Kong, if that helps. You don't sound American, but your English isn't very European from an American standpoint. Fair. Sorry, what are the best defenses other than England so far? I would say, just generally speaking, Spain, but obviously they have a tougher matchup in the next round. Potentially France as well, and Portugal, but once again, they're facing off versus each other, which makes it very tough. In terms of this round of 16, I believe it goes in order of Spain, then England, then Portugal, then the Dutch, in terms of just best clean sheet odds. Now, generally speaking, over the next 2 rounds, I think England obviously would rank first above Spain anyways, and then it would be Spain, and then it would be probably the Dutch potentially, just because, of course, the next matchup is most likely Austria, where they're expected to do well, whereas Spain and Germany and France obviously noticeably have tougher games, so do Portugal. So yeah, pretty close. Is Depay's minutes risks? I don't think he's a minutes risk. I think he should play 85 minutes per game, as he has been so far. Netherlands double up with Virgil van Dijk and Ake, good shout. I don't think it's a bad shout at all. And if England concedes a goal, they are playing a very poor. I mean, I don't really understand what your point is. So England is playing very poor football, sure, from the offensive point of view. But why do you suddenly think that they're just going to concede a goal? Are you going to suddenly say that if England are a team that are likely to concede a goal, then every other team in this tournament so far are more likely to concede goals? Because England have literally conceded the least amount of XG as far as I'm aware, or at least they're bottom three. Or as in top one, right? In terms of teams that have conceded the least amount of chances. So they've given their opponents the least amount of chances. So if there's any way you'd bet on England, you'd probably bet on their defense. The quality of football doesn't correlate to clean sheets, if that makes sense. You're still going to try and bet on the team that is the most defensive, if that makes sense, or has the best defensive fixtures, a mix of that. So I'd go England on that basis. Why no Ronaldo? There's nothing specifics about England that I don't like. I mean, sorry, about Ronaldo that I don't like, or even Bellingham. With Bellingham, I'd say game 2 and 3, he's been pretty boring, and so have the English team. And for that reason, I'm not that keen on Bellingham from the offensive point of view. I think with Kane, at least you just have that sort of pen share, a couple other things as well, like just simply just being in front of goal most of the time. As far as, let's say, England being ultra defensive, yeah, that's just a fact. That's what we've seen so far, and that's what we've seen from the last few major tournaments as well. 2 Austrian attackers, I think it's smart if you go for Baumgartner and Sabitzer for sure. Is Nuno Mendes injured? No, he's not at all. Nuno Mendes was actually spotted in training. It's just that obviously Portugal rotated for match day 3. Which side, Fran? Schlotterbeck plus Van Dijk or Rudiger plus Ake? I'd probably go... Tough one, because obviously Jonathan Tah could come back, but I'd probably go Schlotterbeck plus Van Dijk, because I do prefer Van Dijk. How would you play the chips if still available? I'd play Limitless match day 5 and Wildcard match day 6. Is full and just sort of treat it like maximum free hits everywhere. Amazing team, honestly. Thank you, Marco. Will Carvajal start after reports Navas may play instead? I don't see. There are no legitimate reports talking about how. You know what? I'm just gonna write a tweet about it. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna respond to that anyways on Twitter, because I just think there have been too many sort of mentions of this 50k sort of followed Spanish English news account that is just complete waffle to me. Okay. Is Rudiger a good option? I think he's okay, but the thing is, look, at the end of the day, Germany have 2 back-to-back pretty tough games, so I'm not sure if I really love Rudiger, if I'm honest. Ball recoveries are nice, though, of course. Is Fulkrug starting? I think that's the rumor, but I don't really see it. There's nothing on Marco Rossi. Yeah, we haven't seen anything, have we, Ahmed? So, and all the Spanish predicted lineups seem to be very consistent with the sort of Italian matchday 2 lineup, which I think is what every single Spanish person in the world expects, reasonably speaking. Is KDB worth going for instead of Musiala? Not really. I still think it's such a tough game for Belgium. I really haven't been impressed by Belgium so far. I'd probably still go Musiala. Last minute Germany leaks. Look, we don't have leaks. Mittelstadt is predicted to start. I don't know. There's rumors about Mittelstadt and Rom. I'd probably steer clear. Fulkrug and Havertz as well was the other sort of mention, but really sort of no full-on confirmations. I'd probably just back the German midfielders in this case, or if you really want to go Rudiger, you can go Rudiger, but I personally wouldn't. Marina Romania 0% selected. Good luck as an anti-Dutch bias. Fair play. Is Bastoni a good pick? Once again, I think because the game is so 50-50 between Switzerland and Italy, I don't love it. And then obviously the next matchup is probably going to be a bit lopsided to England potentially if England go through. So I'm not sure if I love Bastoni, but he's still good for ball recoveries and a good pick. Pedro Gundo, I'd probably go Gundo. If you want to back Gundo or Baumgarten, I think that's fine over Pedri. You know, maybe if you don't want to go for Spain, that's fine. If you went Gundo, which part of your team would I upgrade? I wouldn't upgrade it any part of my team. If I went Gundo, I'd just drop Pedri and that's it. Punt on Simons instead of Gundo. I think that's fine if you want a little bit of a split. For Bruggen over Costa, if you go Verbruggen over Costa doesn't make sense because if you go Verbruggen plus Pickford, they're going to play the same day in the quarterfinals. So what you need to realize is, let me quickly show you as well with the bracket. I hope you guys can see this. Hopefully you can. Oh no, I have to create my bracket. That's not very helpful. So, oh no, it's not. This is not the page I want to see. But basically, the quarterfinal match between Spain and Germany, prospectively, right? If we do Spain and Germany, Portugal, France, let's just do it. Netherlands, Austria, England. I don't know. Let's say Italy, right? This match, you're gonna have your Dutch keeper playing with the same day as Pickford, and you're gonna have the Spanish, German, Portuguese, and French keepers playing on the same day as well. So you want to make sure that you have one keeper from this side of the bracket, and then you want to make sure that you have another keeper from this side of the bracket as well, between Spain, Germany, Portugal, and France. So one keeper from here, and probably one keeper between Netherlands, Austria, England, Italy. Now, of course, if you want to back, let's say Switzerland for whatever reason, that's totally fine. I'm not saying that Italy, I think, are going to go through. It's just that predictions, I think, are Italy to go through just slightly, but it's a 50-50. So, as I said, just go for a goalkeeper from one side of the bracket and then another goalkeeper from the other side of the bracket. Now, if you really just plan to use a free hit, you know, that's fine. If you really want to maximize on, let's say, Verbruggen and Pickford for this week, that's fine. But that's a different point. Get locked in, absolutely. 2 minutes left until the deadline. Let's quickly just leave it back on my team. Sorry, guys, was just trying to look at some news in the last minute, but I don't see any news. Conte's a steal for 6 million, but you no longer need steals for budget prices, right? You've got basically an unlimited budget at this point. Lots of picks that you can go for. I think Conte has 2 tough matchups, so unless you're really just sort of, you know, buying into the Conte man of the match narratives, you know, there's that as well. Would you go Guehi or Frimpong? I'd definitely go Guehi without a second thought. Out of Ronaldo, Kane, Mbappe, who'd you not buy? Well, as you can see, I wouldn't go Ronaldo, but maybe logically it's still probably Mbappe to drop. I just wanted a little bit of balance between Portugal and France. Didn't think of that, especially since I've used both chips already. Appreciate it. No problem, King Boo. Is that about the goalkeeper segment? If you went Gundo instead of Musiala, who would I upgrade? I probably wouldn't make any upgrades, to be honest. Kanji captain, since I decided to go without Germany players. Good luck. Good luck. And best of luck with Kanji captain. Hope he gets that man of the match once again. Gundo, Baumgartner. I'd probably go Baumgartner. 30 seconds. All right, 10 seconds, guys. Please lock in your transfers. Stop asking questions and just lock in your moves. Let me refresh the page just to make sure I've got it. Okay, perfect. That's done. So that's it. I think today I might actually watch the matches with a friend, so I might not do a watch-along stream. Well, fine. Actually, do you guys want to do a watch-along stream? Do you guys want to do a watch-along stream? Is the question. Time is up. Good luck, everyone. Best of luck. All right. Thanks so much, Fran. Don't know how you keep up with all the questions. I try my best to answer all of them. Obviously, I miss out on some of them. And apparently, at one point today, I was a racist for saying that Morata had better chances to score than Gakpo, which was backed by market odds. And it wasn't even a reflection on Morata as a player, but just the fact that Morata's playing versus Georgia, and playing in a very strong-looking Spain team versus Gakpo, who's playing versus Romania in a pretty weak-looking Dutch team. But that was a funny little interaction today. Fran, say no to racismo. Well, I'm definitely not racist, but I have a racial preference for Spanish players within my own fantasy team just because I'm Spanish and I want to see my team do well and I expect my team to do well. And to be honest, a lot of data sources like Opta analysts, for example, do predict Spain to maybe win this tournament. So I think it's okay to sort of be a little bit biased. I can admit that I'm biased. I'm definitely not racist though. Please don't get triggered like that because I'm an idiot. I appreciate that. Thank you. Have a good weekend, LBJ. You too. That was something. All right. Like the stream. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys. That sounds like something that a racist would say. I can't remember, JG. Do you know my fan team? I'll need to see. Watch party. We could do a watch party if you guys want to. Like CF, bro got wrong with biased as racist. With bias as racist. I mean, it's a nationality, not a race. The guy calling racist was just an idiot. Thanks for the stream, fan. Yeah, appreciate it, Cal. That guy's what? That guy was just a clown. Nah, I appreciate that. That's fine. Well, okay, fine. You know what? Let's do a watch party. Let's watch some football. Okay, let me get the old FOT mob link. I've not been doing the match predictor, sorry. Sad to hear that Cruz has left my fan team. Yeah, he's gone now. It's a bit unfortunate. End of an era, to be honest. I'm actually bummed that we won't have Cruz anymore. Terribly so. I got Swiss and Italy here. And I'm just going to get the game up as well. Oh man, it's on ITV. Depression. Is it on ITV? Actually, no. No, it's on BBC. My bad. Slightly better than ITV. Do you guys all have your TV license ready? I mean, I'm not saying you're a clown. I'm just saying that to call me racist because I said that Morata's better goal scoring odds is a little bit ridiculous. Because it's not like market odds are racially biased, are they? Cruz could play 10 more years and he would still be good. I love watching Cruz play. Fantastic player. Just a player that, you know, calms the game, particularly in a team like Real Madrid, where, of course, at times, you know, with how lethargic our midfield is and the lack of control, I suppose, nowadays with some of the younger players, too, who aren't necessarily as good, you know, in terms of hold up of the ball per se and sort of control, you know, he does give that calming presence to the team, and I'm going to miss that a lot. You almost bench Walker. I think what I try to do is I go on the PC website and I try to sort by date, and then I try to make sure that my lineup is lined up by date, because obviously you might make a mistake at times. So easiest thing to do is go on the PC website, and then you can actually have filters where you can sort by date and things like that. For each predicted quarterfinal, you've got 4-4-4, 3 players, which seems balanced. I think that's fine. Look, at the end of the day, too, if you think about it, right, you don't necessarily need to have players from each side of the quadrant, right? Because if let's say, if you just think, for example, that Austria, I don't know what's a good example. Like, if you think, generally speaking, let's say England is a very, very, you know, unattacking team, and they weren't particularly defensively good, you probably might not back like quadruple England just for the sake of it. But I mean, what's a good example? Let's say if Austria do well, because Austria unfortunately do not have, let's say, a great defense, but we do actually look at their attack and it looks quite good. You can obviously just sort of make a mention and just say, you know, you probably want to have only 2 Austrian players, and that's fine at the end of the day. Because if you think, let's say, Spain and Germany are the high ceiling teams, the better attacks, even if they were to face off versus each other, you know, in theory, I suppose you can even argue that. First of all, they do better anyways as soon as one of the teams beat each other. So therefore, when they progress, of course, you'd expect them to do well anyway. So for example, let's say when England face off versus, I don't know, the winner of Netherlands versus Austria, you're not necessarily going to want to have 4 Netherlands or 4 Austrian players versus your 4 English players or your 5 English players at that point in the tournament, or even 6. So it does come down to ultimately who you think is going to be doing better anyways. And so if you think there's a weaker quadrant, like for example, I do think out of the round of 16, Italy versus Switzerland, that team is unfortunately, whoever wins this game will probably lose to England. That's my assumption anyways. Or at least the assumption that I'll be willing to bet with. Then I'm less likely to just stack up on those players anyways, because I'm not expecting many of those players to even come out of that quadrant, or rather that sort of segment, because it's not a quadrant, as it's a 16th. You've got 2 players from Portugal, France, Spain, and Germany. Tough side of the bracket. And you've got 4 from England and Holland. It is a bit of a gamble once again. Of course, I think it does make sense. No, I appreciate that, my damned United. I do think it's ridiculous to call me a racist. So yeah, I mean, at least makes sense if you're calling someone out as a racist. Yeah. You're doing team reviews? Not now. I'm just watching football. Did you do the tournament predictor they had on the Euro app? No, unfortunately, no. I am playing Euro. I'm playing the Bet365 and the Fan Team free roll. If you've heard of those, which is just basically another fantasy game with a different sort of rule format and different price points. Yeah, it was just provoking. Look, I mean, either way, I'm still going to respond to it because I don't want to be branded as racist, and I don't think that I'm a racist. Is it racist if only black in? Okay, if the only black player in your team is Mbappe, I mean I don't think that's racism at all. But you've done pretty well to avoid many trolls. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't mind confronting the assumption that I'm a racist, but I'm obviously going to defend myself if I don't think I'm racist, which I don't. Considering the brackets, do you think it was a bad idea to use wildcard in the group stage? I don't think so necessarily. I mean, it really depends, right? Like, some people might be... I mean, let's see what happens, right? For example, if Denmark, let's say, upsets Germany and Belgium upsets France, that's not going to have a huge implication on my draft. Now, obviously, if Georgia, for example, upsets Spain, or, I don't know, Slovakia upsets England, then you know, that wild card is suddenly going to come in super handy. But until those things happen, it's hard to judge, because I still think right now, from the point of view of the quarterfinals, we have a very good chance of making sure that all our players progress towards... Sorry, from the point of view of the round of 16 right now, we have a good chance of making sure all our players can progress towards the quarterfinals, which means that, you know, at least you don't really have to be making transfers until the semifinals. I don't think you can really roll transfers. So you'll have to spend only 4 free transfers by match day 5, but who knows? That might be a lot of transfers spent on that sort of Spain, Germany, France, Portugal segment, which I think is fine, as long as you can kind of have the right players. Because I think, once again, coming back to it, I'm still expecting England to do very well versus whoever comes out or the other side of the semifinal bracket, and England to do well anyways in the quarterfinals. So we'll see what happens. I think the more upsets, we can only play with hindsight, but we'll never know. Belgian player scared, pretty much confirmed. They were scared to get knocked down instead of going for it and get first place in the group and get a good draw for the KO section of the tournament. Yeah, I mean, look, as it turns out as well, I think the way that the group was split, I mean, Belgium wasn't the last day of play, was it? So let me see in terms of the days of play whether it made sense. Yeah, so I mean, Belgium played the day after France, so they would have already known roughly where they could have landed, I suppose, in different sides of the bracket. So that felt weird. You can't roll the transfers. I don't think you can roll the transfers in this stage of the tournament. So let me have a look at the rules once again. We can read the rules together. So it says, and once the knockout stage starts, you can't carry any free transfers forwards between match days. Exactly. So basically, you have free transfers in match day 5. You have to spend them. Sorry, I was just quickly responding to something on Twitter. Switzerland started well. I mean, they've looked pretty good in most games so far, with exception to maybe the Scotland game, if we're being honest. De Bruyne didn't understand the fans' backlash, which was a little much, I admit. Yeah, you mean the booing of De Bruyne as well, but he also said to the team they could beat France to the rest of the team. Look, every team is going to want to win, right, Kim? So I don't think Belgium are going to come out there and just sort of roll over for France, which is obviously why when we look at even some of the odds for France versus Belgium, it's not like we're expecting France to roll over Belgium. In fact, I mean, if anything, I guess your defense has been a little bit better than your offense in some games. It's been a lot of wild phase ball recoveries. Some dangerous minutes, for example, like Sudakov, had so many chances as well within that game. But look, hopefully you guys can play a bit better. And France, to be honest, have been very tame as well this tournament. So Bastoni double-digit haul incoming, guys. But keep in mind though, we will go into extra time where people can still lose their clean sheets then. Although you could get a lot of ball recoveries in extra time. So that's another thing to think about. Was Barella important to Italy? He's gone. Of course, he's important to Italy. This is one of the worst Italian teams that we've seen in a long, long time. I'm gonna get the audio up in my headphones. Both France and Belgium have been tame. Yeah, but I think Belgium at least have scored from open play, right? You can definitely argue less tougher group though, because I think the biggest thing with Belgium was that they were in an easy group, provisionally speaking. What are you guys cheering for here? Biggest issue for those with limitless chip left but no wildcard is losing your. Well, that's the thing, right? If you saved your limitless chip for the knockouts, the issue is that you have a very big chance of returning your team to a completely shambles of a team. So then you're kind of forced to, I don't know, maybe use it in the semifinals potentially, just because you can probably have enough free transfers by the finals to sort of rectify your team. With the new Treville, I want teams with good players and defensive attitude to be punished for it. France, England, Belgium. I get you. Scotland will win. You want Akanji to go forward and score. I mean, apparently Akanji, even if he concedes a goal in a 1-1 game where Switzerland looked pretty unimpressive, he can get him out of the match. So who knows? Chiesa has been poor. Unfortunately, Chiesa after the ACL injury has been poor in general. How long are you going to stay on stream? Sorry if it seems like I'm spamming. You're not spamming at all because you're simply not. I'll be staying on stream for the rest of this game. So let's just watch. Must be a Swiss thing. Fun game, 1-1 with penalties. That could be fun. I'm still salty about Kanji. Hey Benji, let's just. I don't know. I haven't had any man of the match this tournament so far. So I've had two, I think, and they were the same ones that everyone had, I believe. Um, so yeah, am I salty? Of course. Do I do YouTube full time? Not at all. Not at all. This is just a side project for me, really. But ideally, if there's a world where I can do YouTube full time, I'll do it full time for sure. When was the last time El Shaarawy started for Italy? I'm actually gonna search this up. This is ridiculous. El Shaarawy. 23. October 23. Which is pretty recent to be fair, but there was like a couple well those yeah, he's also unfortunately had some injuries, but there was like 2 or 3 years between 2020 and 23 where he wasn't even in the team at all. What type of work do I do? Accounting. Well, that would be nice. You like your content ready as a side project. Appreciate that. Obviously, we try to put as much effort into the channel as possible. I've had 5, including Akanji and Ericsson and Bomb. Amazing, mate. I was so sad about not having Baumgartner, because I was going to go Baumgartner, but because I had the Mbappe thing, I spent the transfer there. And obviously, because I look, skill issue, fine. I went for De Kuyper over Phase. I had to adjust the De Kuyper transfer. So I had Szoboszlai match day 2, which meant that obviously it was a terrible fixture versus Germany, anyways. And I missed out on my chance to go Baumgartner, which would have been my provisional transfer if Mbappe was fine. And yeah, that's life. Cold call, but Italy might be knocked out. I mean, as I said, it's a true 50-50. Honestly, Italy are very weak. Very weak. You know what was depressing as a Spaniard was when we got knocked out by Graziano Pele. That was the pinnacle of Spanish football. Just kidding. Um, yeah. We finally have some price changes. Guecki now 4.6, Gundo 7.1. Oh, good spot. I didn't actually know that. Let me see if my team's actually picked up any price rises. Is there price rises? I can't see it. Or do I have to go on the transfer page to see it? Ah, I can see it now. Musiala still 8.5. No price changes for anyone like Bruno, Pedri, etc. Walker the same price, Pickford the same price, Costa the same price, Sabitzer price rise, Cancelo price rise. Nope, sorry, no price rise for Cancelo. Mbappe the same, Morata no changes, Kane changes. Benji, this is to pay for your Akanji therapy, my All right, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thanks for the super chat. Can you show the price changes? Yeah, let's do it. Why not? So if we go to transfers, right? So Guecki, yes. Oh no, it's. Let me resize this for you guys. Or I can show you, probably show you the panel here. Okay, cool. I guess we can sort by price and just go through, right? Identify anyone whose price changed. Not many price changes at all. Or is it not reflected here? Maybe it's not reflected here. I swear Sabitzer had a price rise, so he should be 6.6. But you can't even see it here. Yeah, look, if you click on Sabitzer... Wait, what? No, here, if you click on Sabitzer, it's 6.6. Yeah, it's not reflected, which is so bad from the website, but hey, this is Gueki as well, 4.6. So yeah, unfortunately, there's no clean way of seeing it. You have to like, because even if you click on the profile on the right-hand side panel, it has the wrong price. Whereas if you click on the player, oh, I guess you get the price rise within your team, but honestly, this is so bad. Such a bad format. I have no idea. I basically only have 2 price rises, though. That's the end of the day. Very silly, though. Oh, well. Let's go back to tournament football. Crazy, both Austrians. Is a Baumgartner as well got one? Makes sense. This game sounds like one of those games where we're just counting ball recoveries. Akanji has won so far. Amazing. My favorite player to hate watch. No, I'm just kidding. Not after the therapy I've received. Baumgartner 6.6. Gundo 7.1. You think it could be a glitch? No problem, Cascade. Appreciate it. This is I've got to be honest here and say Italy. Wow. Do you have a new captaincy threshold? I'd probably say around 8 or 9. Cuz you know what's weird, right? Is I think the best fixture obviously is the Spanish one. So after that, it's going to be a huge drop. What a save. I'm a little bit behind, so I'm about to find out. He's offside though, no? I swear he's offside. Am I crazy? I swear he's offside. Push Morata seems good. Who we captain from Spain? I think, yeah, potentially Morata, potentially Cucurella. Should be whatever team value is. I'm sure there will be any sell-on percentages for transfers. Yeah, it seems like it. So, actually, no, there doesn't seem to be like sell-on percentages. So, if I sell Guehi, he's worth 4.6 million. No. Don't wait. You can totally spoil. I don't really mind. Kukurea seems too defensive for it. Yeah, but that's not how managers manage, though. If that makes sense. I'm not even sure what you mean because we completely dominated Italy on the ball. Like we were living inside Italy's half for the majority of the game, and Cucurella was fantastic in that game. So, in the point system, yeah. But the thing is, you have high odds of getting points. You can get ball recoveries, and obviously a small sliver of a chance of goal involvement. So I think it's actually decent. Italy are so bad. Why are the title holders so poor? Rank 3,660 is amazing. Georgia is expected to be a higher scoring game than Italy Spain. Yeah, but because the goal scoring is sort of favored for one team, I suppose. But I think ball recoveries are not necessarily indicative of um like how close the game is, if that makes sense. Because Kukure got 15 ball recoveries when we completely dominated Italy. When we were actually losing the ball a lot in transition versus Croatia, he didn't really do much that game. So maybe it suits that actually. All right, that was honestly some decent work there from Chiesa. Humble brag. Nah, it's good. Flex your ranks. That wasn't a kanji. That was Embolo, no? Commentators curse. Or commentators being bad in general. Yeah, Italy. I don't know. Brother's getting married, and I'll be at the restaurant during Belgium France game. Your brother should have been more considerate. If Spain had a harder fixture, I get the Kukre captaincy. I think versus Georgia, you're allowed to be a little bit more adventurous for goals man of the match. If you want to. Once again, it just becomes a goal share issue, and then obviously the attackers also have reduced minutes anyways within Spain, right? So you have a bit more of a split share. I mean, to be fair, Switzerland have been pretty good this tournament for the most part. So you think Denmark versus I agree. Denmark versus Germany would be. I mean, I do think people expect Denmark to do good. Denmark have always matched up very well versus top teams. They've never really embarrassed themselves that I can recall, to be honest. You know, if you guys remember the World Cup where Croatia went to the finals, like even in that group, they were knocked out because they just drew every team, I think. But they drew versus Croatia, they drew versus France. and then I think they won the other game, but then didn't have enough points to advance, if I can't remember. But in the Euros last time around, losing to England on, was it extra time? Was it? So yeah, like they've never been crushed by a big nation. Slovenia are undefeated. Yeah. That entire group was undefeated except for Serbia. So shows you how much undefeated means, I guess. Is Middles not playing? I'm not sure, to be honest. We'll find out soon, I suppose. I couldn't really see any specific news on whether there was a confirmed German lineup, and maybe it just means that they've got more airtight sources, I guess. But previously we also had Nagelsmann, he was just very honest, right? He basically explained that there would be no changes in the team, and that was reported in the German press. The news that I saw that felt more concrete would be the Füllkrug potential benching of Havertz. Gundo captain better. I think for minutes you can argue that's the case, but I think Musiala is still fantastic, so nothing really wrong with either. Once again, though, we're expecting Denmark to do pretty well, so it's not like I don't have high hopes for this captaincy. Let's just put it like that. It's probably the weakest captaincy that we actually have out of all the days. Oh my god, Italy. This is actually horrendous. If there's anything the Italians are good at, it's defending for sure. Oof. I'd like to see like a crazy banger in this tournament. I still think we haven't had like some sort of ridiculous long shot goal yet, unless I'm forgetting. You got Mancini and you're playing. He gets subbed at the 60 minutes. Why would they get subbed off at 60 though? Mancini, that is. They're actually just running out of players, right? It's more enjoyable to have players in the first day of the match week. I get that, but to be honest, like I'm looking forward to tomorrow because obviously I'm biased, right? I'm just looking forward to Spain. Italy don't have Calafiori from Bologna, but their defense looks good. I mean, yeah, I mean, even tactically speaking, like or even like historic players as well. Like there's a lot of history within Italian football. Having their roots in terms of ensuring that they have a strong base. Like you'll see like specific managers having that sort of philosophy where I don't know, winning 1-0 is a good game, that sort of thing. Ooh, love that pass from Abisher. Australia dark horses. They've been really good so far. Watching Spain play is a spectacle. We're not that good, but I appreciate that, Connor. That Turkey goal match day one. Oh, Arda Güler. Yeah, that's true. Oh, you mean the half volley from the right back? Yeah, you're right. Arda Güler did score a banger. I'm thinking more like just like just like a missile, more so than a nicely guided finesse. It was a great goal though. But you're right. The half volley actually counts as one. That was a great goal. I don't know. I also have like great expectations for Güler, anyways, as a Real Madrid fan. So, um, he just seems like an extremely impressive ball striker. What happened to the friend who wanted to watch the match for me? We'll watch the next match. I'll probably just head over to his. Why are the games on at 4 a.m.? Well, unfortunately, you live in the wrong side of the world to watch European games. I think is the sad problem. I remember in the World Cup as well. I was in Hong Kong and it was just pain, 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 pain. You weren't sure which was better, going to Musiala. You think you went with both? That's fine. I think for most of this tournament, you could argue that both are 50-50 and they've had, sort of different types of holes, but in different days. Excuse me. Oh man, Italy are. They could make me fall asleep the level of ball. 5 ball recoveries for Akanji. I might do nightly deadline streams. I will see. I don't know. I don't know if I'll be always doing deadline streams, right? Because it's like at the end of the day, I'm sort of still a fantasy channel, so it'd pretty much be geared to the Premier League, and we only have games within certain days, right? Man, um, who am I cheering for? Realistically, a Swiss goal. Yeah, Switzerland have been better so far. Go, Fran, go. Thanks, Ernest. You think Akanji and Shall come out of the match now? Could be Akanji so far. It's been a horrible game though. Mostly because Italy are horrible, but they're good at blocking. They're good at sort of like keeping their lines in check, if that makes sense. That was the one thing in the Spain game where I'd say like, we should have also taken our chances too, like the two crossing opportunities that had. Ooh, so close. What a goal! What a goal! Woo. All right, goodbye, Bastoni owners. Kidding. How am I not behind for once? Holy. I think Italy have honestly committed crimes against football for how bad they are. Oh man, God, Italy. I'm so sorry. It's generally hard to watch. This is Italy, one of the greatest footballing nations ever. It's like a Spain level fall from grace post 2012. Johnny Matisse in the mud. You feel bad for Don. Yeah, he's been actually trying to carry them massively. Great nation, but a bad team. It is a bad team. As I said, like when you look at this Italian lineup on paper, it's shocking. And even Shawari, like the fact that he's like back in the team in 2024 is mental. I'm gonna get some food, unfortunately, because this game requires, the consumption of something to make my enjoyment of life, like stimulated. But like no DeMarco as well. I'll be right back, my friends. What time am I? 41:04. All right, let's get back in this game. What's happened with Di Lorenzo? Ooh, okay. Was it rough? There's a really nice balance in the Swiss team, right? Like a lot of the wing players with pace and Bolo as well. That sort of frame. They also have some substitutions within the forwards, for Embolo minutes to be covered. And then obviously, I guess if they ever need the intangibles, you've got Shaqiri on the bench. The international goat. What's my height? I think that's like 170 and 78 maybe. Not very tall at all. And they don't deserve their goalkeeper. Yeah, sounds about right. This is a horrible Italian team. Oh, it's too funny. Whoa, that's a rough tackle as well. Looking at that again. Someone got Freuler. How? He decided the assist from match day 1 was amazing. I think got an assist match day 3 as well, no? Oh. Oh. Donnarumma. What's a save? That's an incredible save. Your guides have been goaded. Looking forward to FPL. Appreciate that, Justin. We'll see that soon. When do FPL prices come out? I'm not sure actually. I wonder if they delay a little bit, wait for the Euros to finish, or they just quickly update the prices, before the Euro starts ends. We'll see. Would you guys want to see videos whilst the Euros is still going on, or do you want FPL content to come in after? Is FPL good? What do you mean, like the game? Problem now, you gonna get famous in the community. Would love a guide for the fixture so far for FPL. We can definitely do a little bit of fixture action. You'll be on vacation 5th of July till 25th. Either is fine. After. I think FPL is super fun, but it really depends. Like, I mean, if you enjoy watching the Premier League, it's probably fun to do. But if you don't watch the Premier League at all, then there's no reason to really play FPL, in my opinion. But it is a very competitive game, and people take it much more seriously than, let's say, for example, for me, Euro Fantasy is just a bit of fun, right? I'm just here to support Spain for the most part and give you guys good content. But FPL, it's like a religion, basically. What rules would I bring to FPL from Euros? Honestly, none, to be honest. I don't really mind if the free hit was the limitless. I just don't see why there's a need to have a budget cap for FPL. Um, you like FPL for getting to know players better? Are you gonna try get? I'm 100% gonna try get a low FPL ID. Captaincy changing? What do you mean? Sorry. Nah, I don't like captaincy changing at all. I don't even like captaincies in the first place, to be honest. I find it so frustrating. As in, if I want to pick a team, I just want to pick a team. I don't necessarily feel like I need to add another element of variance in the game with captaincies. My personal opinion, but yeah. Does being good at FPL translate to Euros? In my opinion, right? If you think about it like this, FPL is mostly about planning, and it's about sort of looking at the landscape, trying to maybe predict ahead in terms of whether you're data backed or whether you're obviously just eye test backed, trying to make good decisions for the fixtures that are incoming and for the players who are going to play in them, and obviously the teams involved. You play 38 game weeks in FPL, so you make 38 decisions. You have 38 iterations where, in theory, you're trying to reduce the amount of luck in the game by almost have 38 rolls of dice, having 38 rolls of dice. Here in the Euros, in my opinion, there's much stronger players. So everyone can have a very similar team, a very different team, but similar strength, which probably increases the amount of luck in the game, if that makes sense, like provisionally speaking. And then ultimately you have 7 match days, which just means 7 rolls of dice. So I think an FPL manager is most likely going to perform. What tends to happen is with the very good FPL managers is that they always tend to, get their rank rises at around game week 25 plus in the season, right? Because that's where the double game weeks are. That's where the planning comes in. And for some people, it becomes very boring because it's less aesthetic. Um, but I think, yeah, with the small sample size for the Euros, like I think it is a bit of a coin flip. Like in the World Cup, I think I got top 1,000, but it didn't really mean anything to me. I even missed a wild card and had to take a minus 16, and I still got there. But in the Euros, obviously, right now I'm struggling a little bit. Like I'm 107k ranked, but I'm expecting obviously to do better. And obviously with the wild card, it should be better. I do think Euro sample size is low, but we'll see what happens by the end of it. Let's see where we rank up. I don't think I'll. I tend to think, yeah, if you're a good planner, if you're good at making decisions, if you're good at sort of predicting ahead, then every sort of fantasy decision making game is going to be something that you should be good at if you consistently make good decisions. But sometimes it's like I can tell you right now, I'm playing some of the free roll games within some of the other fantasy games, and like for example in the fan team meet the pundit league, I'm like eighth place, and then on some of my other entries within other sort of fantasy games, I'm in the profit position, right, profit making position. Not that it's a flex or anything, but just showing you, of course, my main team isn't doing anything specifically good, but obviously on other fantasy games, I'm able to make, good decisions there as well. And it's working out. So as I said, a little bit more variance in the Euros. I think the ownerships of players are definitely much more sporadic compared to regular FPL, where everyone sort of has a template, but then actually it's once again always your 3 to 4 to 5 players at best who make a small difference in FPL week to week. And it's when you get those players as opposed to whether you own them as well. That makes a huge difference. You'd like Casemiro out, fair. I mean, was he not supposed to go to Saudi or something? Captaincy changing is difficult because of double match weeks. Yeah, that's true actually. And as I said, I don't. I think it also they try to make sure that they try to make sure that the game in terms of FPL is easy to play in the sense that you only make one decision per week or one set of decisions per week, and then you don't have to log back on. If you had to log on every day for FPL, I think people would lose the appeal for it because it does get a bit exhausting doing that every day. For the Euros, I think because we like watching every single match, in my opinion, which is very fun, it doesn't matter so much. But for example, for the Champions League, let's be honest, there's some Champions League nights where I don't see people having the same love for Inter Milan versus Red Bull Salzburg. Let's be honest. How did I get into FPL? I started watching a lot of Premier League football during COVID because this YouTube channel used to be a tactics channel, and I was just talking tactics with my friend, and we started making content. And then because of that, I started actually playing fantasy Premier League for fun. I didn't really know how to play the game at all, but I got a good rank in the end, like around 53k. And then I thought, okay, I'll start making content in fantasy. Because even back then, I was doing stupid stuff like, I don't know, triple captaining Kane on a single game week, things like that. Do you think by the time we reach semifinals in Euro fantasy, climbing leaderboard will be harder? 100%. But the thing is, you can coin flip super hard, Justin, by just getting your captaincy right in the semis and the finals, right? If you do a differential captaincy, it could very well work out in the semis and the finals. For example, in the finals, most people might do a safe captaincy. But if you do a differential captaincy and it works out amazing, you can still sort of twist the dials, if that makes sense. And if you get the one crazy pick, right, the one defender who scores, you can still make a difference. So in my opinion, in theory, obviously rank shouldn't change too much, but you can obviously force your hand. You'd like to see an FPL version that is unlimited transfer budget every week. Yeah, but isn't that the point of the new game that they sort of introduced, where they allowed you to basically do a free hit every week? I just think with unlimited transfers and budget, it sort of once you take, like, I think the whole budget aspect of the game, it feels nice to me because it kind of feels like I'm optimizing players, looking at how efficient players are, price efficient at least. And also sometimes you find relationships in, for example, if Bournemouth, for example, have nice rotation with Everton, like trying to maximize some of those, like, unique pairs from slightly weaker teams makes a little bit of fun sometimes. All right, bear back. I'm actually gonna get I think I have my food's ready. My food being ice cream because I need it for the comfort that is this terrible watch. Did you play slash like the new format? To be honest, I found it very hard to follow because once again, the activity that's needed because of the auto sub mechanic in that game, where you can match, sorry, not the auto sub, but just the sub mechanic in the game, which is very much like MLS fantasy apparently, wasn't so fun for me. But Esteban, I think your question about other fantasy games, I think Serie A was pretty fun, but to be honest, I fell out of love with it when I got news that Lautaro Martinez was benched, right, 1 week, and I literally sold him on my team because I had free transfers anyways. And guess what he did off the bench? 4 goals, and everyone captained him except for the people who actually had the information that he was benched. So yeah, tells you obviously that decision making sometimes isn't rewarded all the time. Okay, we're back. You guys want to play a little bit of bingo? Do you think by the time? Oh, sorry, I think I've already read some of these questions. Then it becomes who has the best matchups every week, and you're not stuck with injuries. Yeah, but I think okay, there is a lot of injury luck in the game. So if you guys remember when I wildcarded and gave me 26, which is a bit crazy, that I wildcarded into a lot of players that no one else owned in the world that was injured, right? Huang was not really a differential. He was 55% owned, but I took one injury there. So my team, whenever you get an injury in FPL, the issue, of course, is instead of actually improving your team, you have to sort of stop your team from deproving. And the issue that I had is obviously I had to fix the Huang injury, but then I suddenly had a Senesi injury when he was meant to double, and then also have great fixtures coming back after the double. And I also went for Pedro Neto as well. And because of that, Pedro Neto was out for the season. Senesi was out for the double and also out for the games after the double, even though I expected him to come back after the double because his manager said that he would come back after the international break. And injuries, if you have a low, let's say, like if you have a low percentage owned player who is meant to be a big part of your team, who no one else owns in the world, you suddenly have a much worse team and you are forced to fix your team whilst everyone in the world sort of enjoys the prospect of not having to deal with injuries. However, I do think it's part of the game because more often than not, if you, let's say, I think what we've learned as well, playing with solvers and playing with models, it shows that generally speaking, having a having a lineup with the kind of pricing nowadays that can rotate is probably going to be better than just what I would say is the sort of you know top heavy team with zero bench, which I do like. That sort of aspect of finding rotation pairs. And having a bit more of a robust team, that can last more than 4 or 5 weeks at a time, can last even 8 to 10 weeks. But I know what you're saying. I think there's two elements to FPL that people do like. Like when it gets frustrating, right? With the example that I explained with the injuries, it is very annoying. But at the same time, I think you are also rewarded for potentially planning ahead at times. But obviously, things can go down really fast if you take on a differential path, if you do a different chip strategy, things like that. The unintended consequences sometimes are horrific, and obviously, it doesn't make FPL very fun in those cases. But when it works, it can also feel amazing when you have that sort of, you know, 1 to 2% owned differential. Have you learned new things this year in FPL as a content creator? Um, I think in terms of content, I think it's not really. I think my social media reach has done well in terms of like my game style. I think the only thing I would say is I tend to take a lot of risks in terms of players that have slightly lower X-mins because I don't really mind going for, let's say, an out of position player. Richarlison I think is a good example of that. But sometimes I think I take too many of these aggressive punts. So I think if anything, looking forwards, um, I probably need to be a little bit more sensible at times with the amount of risks I'm taking on a certain wild card, because obviously the main difference between a game like FPL and obviously just a regular game is, look, you don't have the chance to fix your team as often as, for example, within this Euro game where you have unlimited transfers twice, you have a wild card, you have a limitless in 7 match days, right? In FPL, you have two wild cards to cover 38 match days, and then two of the other chips are sort of miscellaneous. You've got Bastoni. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, as I said, it was a bit of a dice roll, but obviously Switzerland have looked much, much, much better than Italy so far. We'll see what happens in the second half, but not a great look so far. You held your first wild card till game week 20. I think it cost me like 50 points over a few weeks. Wait, why did you go to Nkunku though? Because he was just coming back from injury? You really like the cheat sheet a lot. What I sometimes wonder is weighing a green player worth 6 million against a yellow player worth 9 million. Um, I do 100%. But I will also explain in circumstances where I think the 6 million player is just better. So, for example, last season, Cole Palmer was probably better than most, I don't know, 8 to 9 million players within the game, you know? But at the end of the day, I think FPL is always about managing budget because there is a very strict budget in the game. And it's not like the Euros where you have, really like poorly priced picks all over the place. For example, like Kukurea should not be 4.5 mil. Kwehi should not be 4.5 mil. I think Pickford should have always been 5.5 mil at the bare minimum. How can you have expectations that England will be a bad defense? Outside of that, I think the pricing was pretty fair for the forwards. Maybe Depay a little bit low, but I can also understand the Dutch have been pretty poor for a while now. Who else is poorly priced in the game? I think generally speaking, I'm not sure why a player like Cancelo, for example, is 6 million and Theo Hernandez is 5.5 million, things like that. So I think there's less sort of glaring price issues in games like FPL. Yeah, Middlesat obviously was ridiculous. Ta was ridiculous as well. Cole Palmer is like one of the greatest budget players of all time, in the sense that it wasn't just him having a good season. Like it was like, you have like an attacking 10 for a top team for 5.5 million or something like that, or 5 million at one point. Just ridiculous on penalties as well. Like, yeah, I mean, it doesn't get better than that. I think he should be at 9 mil. Yeah, I think that's fair. Maybe 8.5, but I think 9 is actually okay. Look, I generally like players to be priced highly, but you know, some people have different opinions, and that's okay. Oh my god, Italy. Please. I just don't understand how it's that easy to play through Italy. Like, look, like this, and they literally score. I'm telling you, like they're literally letting themselves get played through. Italy, man. Oh my days. No, but like, what is the defending here? They just got cooked by a triangle, and obviously it's a great finish, but Shaq out of the match. Yeah, probably. You're not even wrong. They could just do it. No, but that whole interaction exactly, Kim. Like, oh my god. Did I pick Italian players? Nah, no chance. Honestly, Italy were probably the team that I was least concerned about having in my team. So Spalletti left Napoli, and Napoli turned into one of the worst teams in Italy. And he's joined Italy to take them into the mud. No, I'm just kidding. Italy defense is like Swiss cheese. Nice. But it's the midfield too, right? Like those were. Anyways, I don't even know what to say. Like you can just watch this game and just just say that the quality of football from Italy is just horrendous. Oh my god! Oh, it's actually hard to watch. I agree. I mean, it was hard to call. I don't think I expected Switzerland to absolutely boss Italy, but my god, Italy looks so bad. Yep, Italy and Napoli both got worse. That's true. Ah. I think Italy is scared of everything in general. Just the quality of play is just it's there. Low key though, can we get an Italian goal just for the sake of it? Switzerland versus England could be pretty fun though. Not in terms of how boring it'll be and how compact the game will be, but just in general, like should be a much more even matchup, which we want to see. That game could be a 0-0, which we love. Oh, mate, that own goal, I would have celebrated. That's a fact. You'd be down for the goal. Remove the clean sheet. Yep, we need some Schadenfreude. Nah, I'm kidding. People can enjoy their kanji points. Slightly better from Italy, mostly through Barella. Asking so much from Bastoni there. Away from the goal. Kanji gets an own goal. Man of the match for Italy. Fair play. Oh, Italy. Oh, that's an Akanji ball recovery. Akanji is captain. Seems like he could actually do very well at this point. What's he on? Maybe 8 points provisionally. Anji must have like 7 ball recoveries now. 7 points provisionally. Yeah, but it seems like he'll definitely get probably 8 or 9 at this rate. Great day one captain. You should probably keep him. On the last day, you've got Ake, Van Dijk, and Simons. Who should I pick as captain if it comes down to it? I would say Van Dijk. Yeah, I agree with that. You know what? What I think is interesting too. It's the one game they've looked a little bit lackluster is when Shaqiri unfortunately was on the field. Um, but yeah, obviously, like I do think it just shows you obviously there's a huge compromise as well to having a bit of a passenger on your team, like someone who's just not going to run, and be able to sort of meet the demands of the game, because that's sort of what Shaqiri did, with exception to the wonder goal. But yeah, incredible from Switzerland so far. It's just it's too easy right now, but I wouldn't mind a third goal though. On last day, you have the Austrian midfield and Virgil van Dijk. Probably going to captain Virgil van Dijk. I think that's fine as well. Nice from Skamaka. Akanji on 8 points now. I think Akanji's brilliant, obviously, for all the physical aspects that you mentioned. It's just that obviously he just has that one mistake in him. Like, for example, the Hungmin Son mistake, if you remember that. I've just seen someone on Twitter with 4 Italian defense. Fair enough. Why you'd want to do that? But yeah, you can generally see, for example, like the sort of wide forwards from Switzerland just defend so deep as well, which just really works. And there's a big shift there too. 4 Italian defense, but it's 2024. Do you think Middle will start? I think he probably will. But I mean, there's substantial risk there, anyways, right? With the yellow too. So what is Chiesa doing? It hurts when you have Vargas as a differential, but take him out for Baumgartner. Oh, sorry about that. I mean, I remember I had a friend of mine who had Vargas as well in the group stage, obviously, and he was a good price point as well. But yeah, it's tough. And hopefully Baumgartner will do well, which I really expect that he still can and should. Wow. Oof. Is that a handball? No, right? I don't think so. Commentators are gassing up Xhaka. Deservedly, obviously, part of it, but I think Vargas has been brilliant too, obviously. All right. Love that overhead kick attempt. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, right? Xhaka with a shot on goal. That's a good shout. Oh, he's been outstanding. Just as if Vargas didn't basically do the exact same thing on the play, but actually give him the good shot. You have 0.1 higher team value. We might see Vargas come off though, as part of the Swiss subs, I guess, which will probably also hurt his man of the match impacts. And Bolo seems like he's coming off, I guess, if Dua's coming on. Oh god, this Italian is honestly diabolical. All right, let's see. Chat. No Italian players performing correct. How's Bastoni performing? Yep, there's no performance. If I was Italy, I wouldn't want Donnarumma yelling at me. He's scary. Denmark wins tonight. Nah, I think Germany should win, but I think it'll be a tough game. Could be a bit of a bore, potentially. I think DeMarco being injured is a huge loss for Italy as well, because you have to think that unfortunately they don't really have a true wing back on that left position like Darmian is. Come on. What a set piece that was. God. Yep. Oh, Italy. Oh, Italy. Yeah, Calafiori out is also not nice, but something from K's at least. Ooh. Great touch. Great touch. Yeah, I think it's Xhaka out of the match. Let's be honest. Oh, he's gonna do it again. He's doing it again. Legend. My bad. We should have respected Granit Xhaka. Just man of the match every match. Can't believe Akanji robbed him of man of the match as well versus Scotland. Shocking. I honestly don't think he necessarily deserved man of the match versus Germany though. But I mean he's been great this tournament. No complaints. You've got Akanji. Hope he wins man of the match. I don't think he'll win man of the match, but 8 points is already incredible. Italy, worst team in the Euro, didn't deserve to qualify in the first place. Yeah, with Vargas coming off, I think at 17 minutes, the man of the match, he might not get it, but we'll see what happens. Of course, I mean, look, if you did all your impact and that was the whole results really sort of linked up to your performance as well, I suppose you can mention that. There's an angle here, right? Have you seen the Italian Wonder Kids, Camarda though? He's actually a pretty big wonder kid. A lot of talk for Vargas when Jacko, yeah, just score, right? At least they have great food. Facts, facts. You double Austrian midfield. I'd probably still captain Sabitzer. Ooh. Oh, that was it for Italy. How have you missed that? Oh, that was it. Oh, God. Come on. Might have been offside, but still, I mean, I don't know. You need an Italy goal. No Akanji. I mean, how much does Akanji own? 9%. I mean, I think we can survive. So, any Holland player? Yeah, I've got Virgil van Dijk. Skamaka is clinical. Oh, God, Italy. I love the Swiss manager's haircut. I wish Spain played every day. Yeah, me too. I think Akanji is unlikely to win man of the match, but I think he can. I think Granit Xhaka is more likely going to win it, if I'm honest. Or Vargas. They are within the top three though, all three of them. Let's see, let's see. Well, I'm glad we don't have to watch Italy again. Hopefully. We'll see. Is this the same where the final will be played? I'm not sure. I'm sorry. This Italian team is just something. A kanji header, is that what's happening, guys? I don't know though. I think Granit Xhaka has sweat so much, he deserves man of the match just for how good he looks sweaty. Not a serious take, by the way. I think it says a lot too that unfortunately a lot of the elite players, even domestically within Serie A, aren't Italian, if that makes sense. I could argue the same obviously about center forwards for Spain, but at least like wing players, center mids, like, a lot of them are fortunately Spanish in La Liga, which is nice. My goodness. This game has been awful, DJ Cleveland. Happy you haven't been able to watch it. Switzerland have been good for the most part, though. Controlled the game. Italy have been preposterous. Um, I am almost falling asleep, and I'm not tired. I'm um just tired of watching Italy. It's just one of the worst Italian teams of all time, if we can put it lightly. Positive for England. In one sense, but I think Switzerland have been comfortably better in this game. So obviously the fact that you'll be facing off versus Switzerland, presumably if you're an English fan, is going to be a tougher game for you for sure. And I think a much more balanced game. So if anything, I think Switzerland have been very good in this tournament, as I said, with exception to the Scotland game, where they actually played a slightly rotated lineup. Anyways, it's very clear they play to me better than without Shaqiri and stuff. Oh my god. I think that was a ball recovery for Akanji. Yep, Granite Shaka might get man of the match. Might just get it. Can't lie. Yep, great pass. I mean, the thing is, that's the thing. So if your other contender for man of the match is getting subbed off at 65 minutes, right? You're just going to have much more actions in the game to hopefully secure man of the match. And I think Xhaka will get it. Do you bet or do you only use your analysis for fantasy? I actually do some fantasy betting, if that makes sense. There are some other games that allow you to bet on certain fantasy teams and entries season long. For example, in the Euros, I'm doing the same thing too. So, but I don't actually bet. I just play fantasy bets, fantasy betting games rather. Um, yeah, Kanji owners have look like they're treated to 8 points, but we'll see. Could obviously be 4. Could also be 11. Um, it's just considering you're 2 goals down, you'd think that the Italian team could play a touch faster as well, but that just shows you the quality gulf. And they're still playing almost with the 3 at the back, as if they're holding on to a lead, as opposed to like overcommitting some bodies with 7 in-game minutes to go, really, which is just mental. But absolutely no urgency. Don't want to win. I mean, it's not even that. I think they literally just don't know how to win, and you've got 2 strikers and no Skamaka running in behind, like for Retegi's sort of header. It's just why don't you just overcommit and try something? Oh god. Vargas played 72 minutes plus goal plus assist. Yeah, but no, but Abisher literally played 90 minutes and got a goal and assist in Matchday 1, and Xhaka still got man of the match, if you remember. And the assist was even better than I think Vargas's assist. So the Granite Xhaka man of the match tax lives on. I think he's going to win man of the match personally right now. I've heard the commentators talk too much about him. And to be fair, it might be deserved as well. Like, right now, this team looks like Retegi and 10 other guys who play football. Nah, that's fine, Kim. Give me a Fratesi goal. Why not? A little bit better from Italy, showing some urgency. But they're just going to need some magic to score, because I'm sorry. Ooh. Handball? No handball? Or are they just going to play on? Well, we'll find out. I have no idea. It looks like he swung his hand, but we have no idea. Like, maybe on the moment of contact, it was by his side. I have no idea. I haven't seen the replay. So what, do they check for the penalty now, or it's already been checked? I guess it's already been checked, right? Yeah, it's already been checked. So there's nothing to it. Never mind. Yeah. I think the ref waved it off rather, sorry. I just hope the next match is better. I'm sorry. This is definitely not peak Italy. Middlestat and Wirtz are benched. Oh, Germany lineups are out. Middlestat's benched. Wow, 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 wow. Oh, no, no, no. Sane's in. And Rom is in. Sane starts. Wirtz benched. Middlestat benched as well. How much is Middlestat owned by? 21%. Let's go. Let's go. Celebrate. It definitely does hurt for some people. I can't imagine too many people own Wirtz, though, right? How much is Wirtz owned by? Oh, 33% of people. Maybe those are 33% of people haven't quit the game, though. Akanji got to be on what? A nuclear 8 points? Yeah, 8 points. Wow, this is like the quietest way to go out. God, Italy. Goodness. I'm sorry, guys. Italy. Maybe in 2 years you can impress me. Oh wait, I don't think they're actually in the. I don't actually think. Did they qualify the World Cup? Let me have a look. No, we still have a ton of football. You did say that if there was a pick player you would pick out of these two teams, it would be a Kanji. Yeah, look, I don't know. It's just incredible for Switzerland. Amazing for them, to be honest. A fantastic result. But Italy just, wow, wow, wow. So poor. So poor. Vargas, man of the match. Xhaka tax. Xhaka tax is dead. The tax is over. I'm a happy man. Well, congratulations on the 8 points. I can see them beating England. Yeah, it could happen. You did call it indeed. I mean, to be honest, I thought Abisher in match day 1 was gonna get man of the match as well. But hey, congratulations to the Akanji owners. If you own Bastoni, well, at least you don't get to see this Italian team play again. So that's also a win if you own Bastoni. And well, I appreciate you guys for coming on the stream. I'm gonna go ahead and probably set up to watch Germany now. Take care. Have a good weekend. A rest of the weekend. I will be back for Spain obviously tomorrow. That's the game that we're here for. Hopefully we really do have a good match versus Georgia. And we can celebrate the goals and things like that. As long as Spain do well, I'm happy. I'm a happy man. And we'll see what happens with Germany as well. I don't have Gundo, obviously. Musiala is the main player for me, but we'll see what happens there. As far as Gundo, of course, coming back to it, I think it's a true 50-50, so we'll see what happens. And that's it. So take care. I'll see you guys soon, and goodbye.